Hi, Norma. My name is Amrys Wang. I'm from Singapore. Um, and I'm working with Dr. Josie here to do this recording. So I just really want to thank you for making the time to join us, to talk with us.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I've been so excited about this. Looking forward to it. Somebody,
Yeah.
somebody said to me, "You're going to talk for 2 hours." I said, "Have you ever known me not to be able to talk for 2 days?"
Amrys and I get on here and we can like talk a long time. So that's why I told her, I said, we need to put a 2-hour limit on it. But there's a lot to say. And I feel like the reason I'm having these conversations is because there's no place to have the conversations.
Right, exactly.
And they need to be had, and I think we need to be able to openly share and discuss things. So why don't, do you want to introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself, Norma? That might be the easiest.
Sure. Yeah, you were.
I was reading your bio. No, I was reading your bio and I saw that you did TTOUCH, and it took me all the way back to like the beginnings of my workings with animals. I took, who was the woman who did it? The founder of TTOUCH was
Linda Tellington Jones.
Yes, Brenda Tellington Jones. I took a workshop with her way back.
I did 2 years with her. We started out with 53 in my class, and about halfway through the first session, we decided we were going to have t-shirts made that said, "I survived 2 years with Linda Tellington Jones." She's a trip. She is a trip. TTOUCH is the most amazing modality.
It is. I used it all the way through veterinary school. I got in order to survive veterinary school, I knew that I needed to go in with some tools. So I did TTOUCH and I got my Reiki certification.
I did the same thing. Yep.
And that's how I made it through vet school, because otherwise, it's just a harsh environment, boy.
I know. Well, I'm a very old person, and back in 1966, when I was I was starting college, and I loved animals always. I wanted to be a veterinarian. That was my goal. My father had severely different plans for me, and it was difficult because it would have, 1970, it was tough for a woman to enter into that. It was a different time. And for a long time, I felt bad. And then I realized that wasn't my path. The universe had other plans for me. And I've said, people will say to me, "Well, how can you tell me what to do with my animal? You're not a veterinarian." And I say, "Well, thank God. Thank God, because at least now I can give you some good information." And what I mean. It's
totally.
Good vets. But we have, well, as my dear friend Michael Dim likes to say, the profession has been hijacked by the pharmaceutical industry. And Robert Bell, another one of my favorites, these people are worshiping at the altar of the Church of Pharmaceutical Mysticism. And that just really, really describes it well.
Yeah, it does. Well, when I was 3 years old, my oldest brother, who's 19 years older than me, I was born in 66, and he was going to veterinary school. Okay, no, but he was going to veterinary school. And I remember being 3 years old going, I want to grow up and to be a veterinarian like my big brother. He would come back from Fort Collins, from CSU, one of the like best vet schools in the country, right? And complain about the 2 women who were in his class. And I remember overhearing these conversations. He was a cowboy. He was a saddle bronc rider. He was a rodeo cowboy going to vet school. This is a family I grew up in. But I remember my father saying, "Well, those women, they can't handle cows and horses." So I buried my dream of going to veterinary school. And so I was like, chose the second best thing of being a pediatrician. But then I went through like my first year of college as pre-med, and I'm like, this is a bunch of bullshit. They're flunking people out. They're not teaching me anything. And so I said, if I have to get up in the morning every morning and spend the rest of my life doing something, what do I want to be doing? And it was working with animals. So I went into biology, and I just went heavily into biology and studying animals, and then circled all the way back around to go to vet school.
Well,
I get it.
Sometimes we take a circuitous route, and sometimes it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to people and even to ourselves. I've learned, as I said, I've been on this planet in this body a long time. I know that the universe has an understanding of what my path is, and it's my responsibility to try to figure it out and do what I'm supposed to
follow it to the best of our abilities, you know.
Every day my goal is to do everything I can to nurture the highest good of all life. And cattail, sorry about that.
As you said that, perfect timing.
Really, and to do all I can to help, to be very careful not to hurt, and to have the things that I need, not necessarily the things I think I want, and then the discernment to recognize the difference. And I figure if you can do that on a daily basis, you're doing okay. Some days I do better than others. But I think it's really important for us to find something we're passionate about. You know, I left, just crazy little background, I left an 18-year marriage where I built a business for my ex-husband that made him $1 million a year. If he just stayed on the golf course and played golf and let me run it. I was miserable. I had money, I had things, I was miserable. And when I left, I said, look, universe, I don't know what I'm going to do. I know it has to be working with animals. I was 47 years old. I'd spent the first half of my life doing for other people's goals. Now it was my turn. I had no clue. I walked out with 2 cats, 2 dogs, 2 horses, $200, no job, no place to live, no money. He had everything frozen. And I said, direct me. And 2 months later, I signed up for a 2-year TTOUCH course for $10,000. Linda Tellington-Jones had no idea how I would pay for it, but it's all 27.
It's the way it goes.
It's all worked out, everything. And this practice of mine has taken on a life of its own. I started out to be a TTOUCH practitioner. I thought, this is what I really want to do. The first TTOUCH class the weekend before, which was Easter weekend, as it turned out, I went to Spring Farm Cares, which is a lovely animal sanctuary in Utica, New York. And that's where our TTOUCH, two weeks of TTOUCH was going to happen. And I got a call 2 weeks before from the farm manager saying, we have an animal communicator in residence on the farm, and she's going to have a workshop for a very small group of people the weekend before your class. And she wants to know if you'd like to come. Out of 53 people, she decided to ask me. Okay. I had no money. I had no right saying yes. I put my 150-pound Shiloh Shepherd in the car, and away we went 3 days early. And I started hearing animals talk to me, thought I was losing my mind. That was how I became an animal communicator. And so I thought, well, okay, if I can talk to them and I understand what's going on, what they need, what they want, how they feel, then I can help them to feel better physically with TTOUCH. And I can help to train the people to establish the behavior that they want, set the boundaries, whatnot. That's a really good thing. And then I realized going on that, well, you have to really learn about nutrition because that's such an integral part of it. And we've got to get away from the vaccines and the drugs and the chemicals. So my practice is just, it's led me, I haven't led it. So now I am, I'm a TTOUCH practitioner, an animal communicator, a nutrition consultant, behavior modification or whatever, and just basically all things healthy to replace the drugs, chemicals, and toxins in their lives. That's all. That's all I do.
I hear you. That's very similar. It's very similar paths. I happen to have the veterinary degree, but at the same time, I'm pretty much doing a lot of what you're doing, you know. So.
When I say to people, like this client, I was with her last night until 11:15. Oh, Lord have mercy. From 6 o'clock till 11:15. And that wasn't even a session I had spent last Sunday with her. Horrible. I don't know if you want to hear the story, but it's so classic of what happens. This young woman had 3 dogs, a 13-year-old lab, a 3-year-old pit bull that they adopted about 2 years ago. And now they just brought into the mix a young Aussie puppy who's now 13 weeks old. And everything was going well for the first year with the first 2 years with the pit and the older girl. And then about, I don't know, a month or so ago, they had an incident. So of course she takes the dog to the vet, wants to know if there's a physical issue, something prompted it.
Mhm.
And the vet said, well, you know, I think that cruciate tear is probably back. What the heck that means. But the dog is just, she's a pit bull. And once she's had an attack on another dog, that's it. You just have to put her down. They gave her the card of a behaviorist, a pen vet, because I lived an hour from Philadelphia. So you know what I get here. Okay. This woman said she would, I can't even say this with a straight face. She would come to the house for a 2-hour session to observe this pit bull. She would sit there for 2 hours and observe. That would
I think I saw your post on this online. That's yes.
$500.
Yes.
I learned last night from this woman. She said, because she couldn't wait to tell me all the people she'd talked to and then rejected, and then she found me and she's happy, thank God. But after this 2-hour observation for $500,
oh my God,
they would have to put the dog on a combination of Zoloft and gabapentin.
Here we go.
Josie, for 6 months before she would come back and train. And then she would come back and train to the tune of $200 an hour with the dog on gabapentin.
Nancy, this is what veterinary medicine has become. And I mean, you've been out there longer than I have, but we both, I feel, come from that same kind of school of thought going through. And I thought we would be in such a different place right now. But corporate, you know, one of the reasons I chose vet med over human medicine was because human medicine was already corporate. And I wanted a place where I could practice the way I wanted to practice and the way I thought that particular individual animal sitting in front of me, what they needed, you know, and that's why I went this route in my love of animals. But what I've seen happen is a corporate buyout of vet med. About 6 years ago, I went up to the big, because I'm down in Florida, and in Orlando, they have the big North American Veterinary Conference every year. So I can drive up there, get all my CE. Well, I went up there and I noticed this distinct difference. You know, veterinarians are pretty casual people. We're down on the ground with dogs, covered in dog and cat hair. We're out in barns. You got your large animal guys walking in with their cowboy boots and their jeans, and we're not. And I walked into these fancy hotels in Orlando, and all of a sudden I'm seeing black suits everywhere. I literally asked somebody while I was standing in line, I'm like, did the mafia show up? What is going on?
Yes.
I literally said that, and it was yes. Big pharma mafia showed up. So they have formed all these corporations. Mars Nestle has bought out most of the individual clinics. Then they set up the insurance companies, which are unregulated. I mean, I've got, it makes me sick to my heart. I have clients down here who set up insurance for their elderly pets because they knew they were going to be retiring and living on a pension. Now the insurance won't cover them when their pets need it the most.
Just like
and then and so then what I'm seeing with the pharmacology lately is I'm at the point in my practice, I will not treat a dog on gabapentin. If they want to be a client of mine, they're going to take that drug and they're going to take it in the bathroom and they're going to flush it down the toilet, and they're not going to get another single dose, period.
I do the same thing. I couldn't believe this woman won't work with the dog unless he's on drugs. When people call me with the dog, any kind of drug like that, I tell them, you talk with your vet, you get guidance on how to wean your dog off the drug. When the drug is out of their system, I will then come work with them. I will not work with the dog on drugs.
It's like they're turning our animals into zombies, and especially if you have a dog with aggressive tendencies and then you make them high as a kite, you don't know where that dog is at, and you don't even can't even count on them reading signals bright or anything.
No, you know, your brain is fried. They can't. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, after I got my biology degree, I worked in animal shelters for about 8 years. Like in the trenches. But the very first shelter I worked at was in Boulder County in Boulder, Colorado. And the shelter manager there was an amazing woman. And she knew dog behavior. She had studied dog behavior with somebody, and she spent the first 3 months working with me. When I worked there, we would walk through those kennels and she would just tell me how to read every single dog in there. And she would say, you know, because we had to make this, we were making life and death decisions. Does that one have a chance to rehab it, or does that one not have a chance? Are we going to risk getting sued and because the dog's going to tear somebody's face off if we adopt it out of here or not? And we've got this whole healthy litter of beautiful puppies that we know are going to grow up good, that we got to find homes for. You know, we were making those decisions on a daily basis. And my first year out of vet school, I was a shelter vet out in New Mexico, out in Espanola, and it was like the lowrider capital of the United States, an Indian reservation on either side of town. And one of their biggest sports beyond cockfighting was dogfighting. So I saw the whole thing. But even so, I don't want those dogs to be drugged up. And what I've seen lately is the past year, there is no more science. It's just like we're dealing with human medicine and the whole virus thing. There's no more science anymore. There's opinion op-ed pieces that are posted in certain journals, magazines, and then everybody jumps on that as truth. So they're knocking down, like all of a sudden, all the NSAIDs are going to poison our dogs and kill our dogs. So we've got to put everybody on gabapentin and Galliprant. And then if that doesn't work, we need to add in tramadol. And then if that doesn't work, we need to add in trazodone. And trazodone was used in mental hospitals for psych patients that were completely out of control, that they had to flatten out just so they didn't hurt themselves or somebody else. And we're using it in our dogs.
Well, it's because veterinarians don't, I know they don't get taught the right things in vet school. I mean, I know that I have many friends who are vets, and they complain that, you know, they really didn't get what they needed to get in vet school.
But
and
that's part of it, but that's not the
but I tell them that's not the excuse though, because for the young woman who calls me her second mom, Dr. Sarah Urban, God love her, I'm so proud of Sarah. She came to my farm when she was 16. Sarah came to my farm. I used to live close to her parents. Okay. She came to my farm one day, introduced herself, said, I heard somebody told me that an animal communicator just bought this farm. She said, I've driven by here every day for the last 2 weeks, but I never saw anybody outside. I was out with my horses in the front paddock. So she stopped. Well, I went to her house. I met her parents. I talked with all their animals. We became very good friends. Sarah became my farm sitter for the rest of high school, all through her undergrad.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then she came, she said, Mom, I want to go to vet school. I said, well, yeah, I know that, dear. You just figure that out. I said, as long as you become, at the very least, you need to become an integrated vet. You cannot just go. Well, I taught her about how to do raw food. I said, if you're going to sit for my animals while I'm gone for 2 weeks, they eat raw. I taught her how to do it. I taught her how to do that. She came to every workshop I did, essential oils and TTOUCH communications workshops. Her mother said, you know, you're really responsible for a lot of this. I said, sorry.
No, but thank goodness she had you, because I had people like you as well. And that's what got me on that path.
Right. And look at where you and she are now. I mean, by the time Sarah was, what, 4 years out of school, she's, you know, certified in chiropractic and in acupuncture and in healing food. I mean, so I understand. I mean, she used to call me at night when she was in Colorado. She'd call me crying because she couldn't get a nutrition class or whatever. And I know they don't provide the right information. But when you're out, you go and learn it.
Norma, when I was in, and I graduated in 1995. So there are people, you mentioned acupuncture in a veterinary school, and they looked at you like you were a witch doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
So when I got in there, well, I went in with those two tools, armed with Reiki, armed with TTOUCH, because I would stand and do Reiki treatments across the room, across the ICU, just to keep the dog from whining, just to calm them down, while I was being grilled by the clinicians, you know. But I joined up with the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association, and I started a student club there. I went to every single one of those conferences, and I invited people back to the vet school to teach and lecture, primarily out of my own selfish reasons, because I wanted to hear from them. But it opened up this school, and I actually had my own second like track of training while I was going in school. That was the thing that,
Right.
you know, but I had to work my butt off. I had to get in with those clinicians. I had a colleague of mine who was almost blackballed out of school because she was into alternative medicine. But I went down, I got a job down in the hospital in the ClinPath department, and I became the person that those clinicians would call up to get their blood work done at 2 o'clock in the morning. So by the time I got down into hospital, they knew I was into all this woo-woo stuff, but they're like, damn, she gave me those blood work on that cow at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and she was there on time and she knew what she was doing. So I had this respect from them, and that's what got me through. But you can't expect knowledge to be handed to you on a silver spoon.
No, you
regardless.
have to, and Sarah did the same thing when she was a school. I know she got clinicians. She did some, you know, on vacations.
Externships,
she would go and do with homeopaths, and she would get them to come and, you know, give lectures and whatnot. So she started her own little club. So I mean, very, very similar to what you did.
Yeah.
My point is to people, look, I didn't get all the training I needed in school either, but I've spent my life learning what I think is important to know. You know, you don't, you
never stop. You never
school
stop.
School should be a place to teach you how to think and how to learn, not what to think and what to learn. I think that's my philosophy. So
you hit the nail right there, because they don't teach people critical thinking, you know, at all. I was just thinking before, for some reason, a memory before I got on here with you today was when I was back in, you know, all of this stuff going on with human medicine right now, we'll just put it that way, with the pandemic. But when I took advanced placement at biology in high school, my teacher took us, it was before Google and the internet, she took us down to the medical school library, to the medical stacks is what they called them. And it was scientific journal after scientific journal. It went 6 floors down into the ground. You felt like you were going down into these dwarf caves, you know, or like some like psycho killer was going to come out at you, or like the, you know, hermit that lived down in there. But we learned how to do research. If we had a question on something, let's go look it up. What were the studies? We learned how to read a scientific study to determine whether it was well done or not, to determine whether there was bias in there. And all of that has been thrown out the window. Critical thinking is thrown out.
Oh, wait a minute. You mean you don't do all the peer reviews?
You know? Yeah.
I get a kick of it. Well, I want peer-reviewed studies. And I said, okay, studies done by whom, funded by whom, and peer-reviewed by whom? Well,
you know, but you know what's so funny is, because being in a like field we were always hit with like, well, where's the double-blind placebo-controlled peer-reviewed study on acupuncture, or on this or on that? Now I'm turning around and asking vets, where is the study on gabapentin? Where's the double-blind peer-reviewed study on gabapentin? Because Pfizer has made a lot of money on that drug. I actually wrote an article for Dogs Naturally magazine on that drug, because I'm like, why are all these dogs on it? There is not a single study showing that that drug does anything for dogs, you know? So I get to turn it around and throw it back in their lap, which I'm having fun doing.
Well, they can't handle it. Then all of a sudden, you're a quack, you know, you're
conspiracy theorist.
Well, you know what I say? It's only a theory until it becomes a reality. And if you want to look at it, I think Noah was the first conspiracy theorist. He was a conspiracy theorist until it started to rain. So I mean, seriously, when
there you go.
I've got a little floating cat here, don't I?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy because they don't want to look. They're lazy. People inherently, I think humans are becoming more and more lazy. They want it forced fed to them. They don't want to have to think about it. If somebody with some letters behind their name says it, it must be true, good enough for them.
Yeah.
And it's never been good enough for me. I'm just,
No.
you gotta prove
And
it to me.
it's just funny how like we've gone down such this slippery slope. And I think it continues to go back to education. I mean, that's what, when I was in the animal welfare, in the animal shelters working, we were constantly like, if we could educate people and educate people and educate people, or get through to them some way, you know. But it's the same thing with veterinary medicine now. I mean, I had, the last year, I had 2 patients, geriatric dogs, go into a local emergency clinic, 2 different local emergency clinics. One was for constipation and the other one was for a seizure and neurological episode. They both were overdosed on methadone.
My boy over here.
Methadone.
Yeah. Well, they had him on methadone, gabapentin, and buprenorphine all at the same time, plus 3 heavy-duty antibiotics. I'm still trying to deal with the skin issues they caused. I can't. He is a wreck. He's a mess. The poor thing.
Did you have to leave him there, or is that what happened?
They had to leave him there for 2.5 days because well, quick story. He had. I made the mistake of going through animal biome, and we did the test,
Okay.
and it came back. He had just a very, very minor deficit of a couple of, beneficial bacteria, and they recommended, all these dietary things, went out every single thing I was already doing. He eats raw, he gets his seeds, and he gets this and blah, blah. So then they said, of course, then they wanted to push their capsules, their fecal material.
Okay.
I thought, well, okay, fine, because I filled out the report, I filled out the profile, raw fed, blah, blah, blah. That's what I wanted. Got the capsules, because he's a big boy, had to have double the dose, more money, fine. Then I had to wait 6 weeks and retest, which I did. So now I'm into this hundreds of dollars. My dog is getting all the skin crap. Okay.
Oh no.
The retest comes back. He's now got E. coli and God knows what else. And one thing they didn't tell me in the report, that my integrative practitioner, who I love, he did a hair and blood sample. He said he had cytomegalovirus in almost every organ in his body, including his heart. And I went crazy. Couldn't get these people from Animal Biome to return a call or an email for 3 months. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Finally got somebody.
Wow.
And said, well, she was new there, but she'd have somebody call me. I said, who are you going to call me? She told me the woman's name. She's one of the quote unquote, one of the owners or founders. I said, okay, fine. Well, call me back. I explained, I said, look, I'm really concerned because talking with your representative, what I found out was that what was sent to me and what I gave my dog were capsules, were material from a kibble-fed dog, not a raw-fed dog. And he now has all these issues. And she said, well,
they told you it was from a kibble-fed dog.
Yes. And this is her response. Well, I'm looking at the invoice. The invoice says that you ordered the regular capsules. I said, no, your invoice shows that you sent me the regular capsules.
Why are they even using capsules like that?
I said, did you read my? Well, I was Rodney Habib and had done video, and he said, this is Animal Biome. This is really great. They do great work, yada, yada. And I said, well, okay, fine. I'm trying to do the best for my dog. Listen,
I've been trying to use them, and there has been one blockage in front of me after another.
Universe is protecting you, my dear.
Yeah.
This is the quote unquote one of the founders. She said, well, you ordered the regular. Well, no, I would never. I said, did you read the profile? I was very clear in the profile, these raw fed, yada, yada. Well, but you still ordered. And then she finally said, well, we didn't have enough healthy raw fed donors, so we've had to just stop using that. And I said, and you just didn't bother to tell me, and you just sent me. Well,
why are they even, if they're using, why are they even using kibble fed donors? I could go to the local dog park and pick up samples and dry it and put it in gel caps and freaking sell it for $150.
Exactly. Okay, so
then
she said, well, oh, honey, you're going to love this. Then she said, well, thank you for letting me know. I'll let our staff know. I said, what do you mean you let your staff know? I said, she said, well, what do you want me to do? And I said, well, I can't tell you what to do, but I would think that you could come up with some ideas on your own.
You
And
just
she
screwed up my dog. Like,
and then she said something like, well, we have hundreds of thousands of customers, and I laughed. I mean, I tried not to laugh on the phone, but I thought, yeah, you have hundreds of
money,
thousands of customers.
dollar signs, dollar
I said,
signs.
well, look, she said, she said, well, I'll just let the staff know. She said, well, thank you. She said, well, you have a nice day. And I tried to be polite and professional always, but I was I held back a lot. And I said, well, frankly, I couldn't care less if you never have a good day ever again in your life. Bye-bye now. And that's exactly the way they did nothing.
I can't even believe I'm in awe that they're even selling kibble fed fecal capsules.
That's all they're selling now. That's all they're selling. I never would have done it if obviously, but I thought, okay, this is a chance to get, something from a healthy raw fed dog. Yeah. So I spent close to $800 for them to.
Oh yeah, they're expensive.
And so then I thought, okay, I tried this, I tried that. He wasn't really getting better. He was miserable. And then I don't know, I got some chlorine dioxide for myself to have him. And I said, okay, he's got all this virus and crap. I'm going to give him chlorine dioxide. His skin started to clear up beautifully.
I was going to say, if you have antiviral stuff, even.
Yes, but
I mean, it's a big. Yeah.
So his skin was looking beautiful. I was going, oh my God, it's a miracle. And he was so much happier and it was lovely. And he didn't have to wear his onesies anymore. And,
Oh, it was so good. Wow.
But what happened, I think he wasn't able to process, the toxic crap enough. And he got, what I knew was he got stones, created stones. Okay. Now I happen to know that, bladder stones, kidney stones, crystals of any type can be dealt with really quickly and easily if I call my dear friend Laurel Davis at Herbs of the World and say, send me some free and clear, please, honey, which I did. But it was the week before Christmas and it was, I knew it was going to take a few days. In the meantime, my poor dog is assuming the position 47,000 times a day and dropping a couple of drops and then some blood.
Oh no. Oh no.
So and of course you can't get into a vet. I have a vet a half a block from my house. I would not take a corpse to those people. He literally shot himself and killed himself last November. He committed suicide. And I said, well, if I was doing what he was doing to dogs every day, I'd shoot myself too, but that's another issue.
Yeah.
But I drove him an hour and a half to a clinic because I knew they had 24-hour operation and they had it's a big clinic and I knew they would have all what I need. All I wanted them to catheterize him so I could bring him home and keep his bladder empty for the 2 or 3 days it would take to get the herbs. I gave the history, the whole bit. She examined my dog, 2 minutes, said, oh, he's got I'm sure this is chronic, not acute, chronic renal dysfunction, probable prostate cancer, because she could feel his prostate and it was enlarged and swishing. I said, well, he's got a full bladder pushing on it. I would think maybe I'm not a veterinarian, but I'm not stupid. I think if I had a prostate under those circumstances, mine would be a little squishy too. And then I said, well, do the ultrasound. I want to see what's going on, know if there's any other blockage other than stones, yada, yada. They called me back that night. Well, we didn't see any stones, but there's free fluid in his abdomen. We don't know why, so we might have to do exploratory surgery. And I said, oh, hell no.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
There'll be no surgery. I said, look, I know what's going on. I know it's stones. I know the herbs that I've ordered will fix it. And I just need his bladder to be emptied. So
but you know nothing. You know nothing, right?
Okay. So now he's got cancer. He's got, and then when they passed the catheter, she said, well, we found obstruction really quickly. So it must be tumors in the urethra. So he's probably got cancer there too. And I'm going I'm sitting here shaking my head.
Have they never dealt with stones? Like,
God only knows.
They jump. You know what they're doing. They're practicing medicine by the algorithm. They're not teaching them the old SOAP protocol where you look at everything and look at all the different options. They're doing this yes and no algorithm thing.
I gave them the history. I told them exactly what was going on, exactly what I did. I said, I know that what I did caused this situation. I get it. It was probably he was just trying to get rid of it and he couldn't get rid of it fast enough.
Well, and if it's the chlorine, if it just disturbed the electrolytes and the mineral balance, then that could have created the
Yeah,
same.
and I said, you know,
Yeah.
but I was desperately, and
Yeah.
I've been months trying to get this poor dog some relief. So they told me I was crazy. They called me for the next day and said I should basically just let them put him down because he was really sick and he was, you know, going to die.
Oh my
And they
God.
said, oh, and he's probably a much older dog than you think he is. Well, they don't know I'm an animal communicator. Not only when the rescue I got from Diane told me how old she thought he was. And when I asked him his birthday, he told me the day and month and year that he was born. And that, so he's 5.5 years old. They said, oh, he's a much older dog. Long story short, I finally, after 2.5 days, when the Thursday before Christmas was on Saturday, Thursday, they're screaming at me. He'd been there since Tuesday. Gotta let us put him down, you know, blah, blah, blah. I said, no.
Oh my God, no. I would go there. I'm telling people, go there, get your dog out.
I did. I said, I will be
Go
there.
get your dog out.
I got in the car, I drove, they were very unhappy. When I got home and I started looking at people,
It doesn't even
they
matter. I
charged me-
hope they were super unhappy. I hope they
Almost-
were so unhappy and miserable.
well, I was unhappy. They charged me almost $4,000.
Yeah, yeah.
And I looked, when I got home, I looked
That's
at this
insane.
thing and I'm thinking gabapentin, methadone, and I was hysterical. The herbs came, they came when I got home, the herbs were here. I started him, he had his first dose Thursday night. He had a dose Friday morning. He still couldn't urinate. I called her and I said, look, he's not able to urinate on his own yet, but I know he will be soon, but I'm going to bring him up this afternoon and I want you to pass a catheter.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted them, they would not send him home with a catheter. If they had, he never would have been admitted in the first place. We wouldn't have been too old. Guess what I now know how to do? I now know how to
Catheterize.
my own dog. But they were so insistent that he had cancer and this and that, whatever. So Friday night, he had his third dose of herbs. Saturday morning, Christmas morning at about 11 o'clock. I have the photos to prove it. The pile of, looks like cement almost, the pile of stones that he deposited and then peed. This dog pees like a champ many times a day now.
What is that formula? It's free and clear.
Oh, it's
by
called
Herbs of the World.
Herbs of the World. Oh, if you
Okay,
don't
I wrote
know
it down.
Herbs of the
Yeah, I did.
World,
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
I've known this woman for like 25 years. She's helped me save so many animals.
Cool.
And she's formulated over 400 formulas over the years. Her history is mind-boggling. She is absolutely
Who is
amazing.
that?
Her name is Laurel Davis. She's originally from Canada. She's been in this country. She's been here for like 25 years. She just got her U.S. citizenship last winter.
Okay.
So happy.
Okay.
But she's she
Cool.
formulates for animals and humans, and she will custom formulate.
Cool.
So somebody you really should know her. She's great.
Yeah,
So
I should. I'll check her out definitely. Yeah. No, but you know what? Your story is. It's the same thing over and over and over again.
It happens so many times a day in this country.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I had a client. I mean, I have some high profile clients down here, and this guy, he runs the whole South Beach Food and Wine Festival, which is huge. And they had this wonderful Old English sheepdog, Charlie, that I had worked with since he was young. Well, he started vomiting really bad, and I was worried. I was concerned of pancreatitis or something. So they took him to the emergency clinic around their house. It was the same thing. They had to wait in the car. They couldn't go in with him. They kept giving him the run around. They wouldn't let them come visit on the weekend. Monday morning, they were sitting out there for 4 hours, and the technician came out and said, "Oh, we're sorry, your dog died." This man, I mean, he called me, so I know exactly the state he was in. I was in that state. I was like, what do you mean the dog died? The dog was 7 years old. There was no dying. And I had seen him like the week before. I mean, he was ready to just like lay on the lawsuits, but literally, I tell people, don't leave your dog. Just don't leave your dog. And if you have to drive 100 miles, you know, I have probably maybe 3 veterinarians left here in South Florida that I trust, that I know aren't gonna do what you just said. But yeah, they put them on these drugs, and then they're like, oh, well, one of the dogs that ended up dying from the methadone, I had been treating, it was an old dog. It was like an 18-year-old terrier mix, but he was doing really well. He had had previous knee surgery. I'd been giving him acupuncture. He had a weird seizure and it was on a weekend. And so she got really worried. She ran into the ER clinic. They put him on all these meds. She called me Sunday. She's like, oh my God, Rocky's in at the ER. And they just called me telling me that I should put him down, that he's doing so horrible. I was like, I told her, I said, go get that dog out of that veterinary clinic. I will meet you at your house first thing in the morning and we'll see what's going on. I walked in, the dog was in lateral recumbency, barely responsive. I had a respiratory rate. Actually, her boyfriend was there and they had a little pulse ox from COVID. So they had that on him. His respiratory rate was like 15 breaths a minute. I could barely find a pulse rate. I said, show me what drugs this dog has been on. Sunday, when they called her because the dog was going into respiratory arrest and was dying and they wanted to put him to sleep, he had been on methadone, IV, it was Buprenex as well, midazolam, gabapentin. So the dog was in respiratory arrest and cardiac arrest due to the drugs. They stopped the drugs when they called her and then he came back up out of it. You know, they put him on the same exact drug protocol once he revived. So I started doing the like wake the heroin addict up from you know, get him up. As soon as we started stimulating him, I started doing acupuncture on him. He came back too. And his heart rate and respiratory, if we let him lay there, he drifted right back off into that opioid overdose state. So I sat with that dog for 4 hours and her dad is a pediatrician, an old time pediatrician down here who's anti-vax actually, who doesn't want anybody vaccinating their kids. Yeah, that's left. I mean, he's like 70 years old, but we sat there and babied him back and got him back, but he was never right. I think he had, his brain had been deprived of enough oxygen and he was so old that he just never fully recovered from it.
Oh, and all those brain altering chemicals. I mean,
yeah, no, exactly. It's just nuts. And yet you don't, it's not just the schools, Norma, because I have veterinarians down here that I know graduated near when I graduated. And it was before they changed this whole teaching in the schools, before they did away with the soap and went to this algorithmic teaching style. And the clinic for this dog, I know the owner of that clinic. I did relief work with her way back 15 years ago. And I called her up. I said, Dr. Cabeza, this is you need to know what went on in your emergency room on this case. She's like, well, can I call you back and I'll review it? I said, no, you're going to sit here on the phone with me and I'm going to tell you what is going on in your emergency clinic and how one of my patients was overdosed and nearly died from the opioid overdose. And she's like, well, I have to talk to those people. Well, I'm like, and then I said, do you guys even have Narcan in your hospital? If you're using drugs like methadone, at the doses you're using them in geriatric patients, you better have Narcan available and better know when to use it. You know, it was just insane. I didn't get so much of even an apology from her.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you what I got, so that you know that you're not the only one. So I wrote a letter to the owner of this clinic, who I met him years and years and years ago. They do large and small animals, and I know Randy is the large animal vet. He's not there in the brick and mortar. So he probably doesn't know on a day-to-day basis what's going on.
Yeah,
I wrote him
but he needs to know, right? He needs to know.
A page letter. I happen, one of my strong suits is I happen to write freaking terrific letters. I write, all my friends, they have me write legal letters for the medical letters. That's one of my strong suits. I don't know why, I just do. So I wrote a fabulous letter. I read it to my prosecuting attorney client and to my retired physician client, and they both said, holy shit, that's the best letter I've ever heard. I sent it to him. I also went online and I printed out all of the, from drug.com and here and there, whatever, all of the contraindications for using these drugs, especially in concert. You can't. Oh, and I love the ones.
But they're layering them. And I can't.
Yes.
What I've been trying to find out is who is telling them, giving them instructions to layer all these drugs, because that's what's going on.
What I said to him was, okay, as you can see from the attachments, not only are these drugs contraindicated in combination, they should never be, it says it right there, but 2 of them very clearly state should never be used with anyone with, wait for it, renal dysfunction or problems urinating.
Yeah,
Well,
because you can't flush them out of their body.
So I did also, and I wrote a very nice, and what I said was, you know, I'm sure that no one on your staff intentionally did harm to my dog. However, the result is that they did great harm, and I would hope to have a timely and appropriate response from you. I didn't say, I'm going to sue you, I want this, that, whatever.
Yeah.
It took 2 weeks. The man finally sends me a letter, kind of short and not so sweet, basically telling me they did everything right. I'm a freaking lunatic. And he even said to have treated your dog herbally would have been malpractice. I said, well, the herbs that I used actually saved his life. So, okay. But this was his response. So, and you know, it's not enough money, and I'm not a particularly litigious person, but it really irritates me every time I pay on that freaking credit card. So I just decided tomorrow I had my physician friend write a letter explaining to the credit card company that these drugs are contraindicated, number 1, they were not used and they are not approved for veterinary use. Although I have a good case for a legal suit, I've decided not to go that route. I'm asking the credit card company to charge them back and to remove those charges. Because I said, this veterinarian said I'm stupid. Well, guess what?
Well, I mean, we're talking about the systemic. It's systemic. I mean, you're up in what, Pennsylvania? I'm all the way down in Florida. It's all the way across this country that this is happening.
It's endemic.
Yeah, it is endemic. So that's why I'm calling it the opioid crisis of veterinary medicine. But our animals aren't down at the corner, or I mean, what's going on in California right now? I just had 2 friends on Facebook. One of them's a dog person. She went down to a bank or someplace downtown Seattle to make a deposit. And here's this woman smoking fentanyl off of a piece of tinfoil in the lobby of the office she was going into.
Oh, you mean she didn't get one of the fruit pipes?
Yeah. Like, what is happening? And I'm seeing this from the fact that I had a dear beloved person in my life die in February, and we're highly suspecting a drug overdose is what finally did him in. But so I've been down that route personally as well. But to have this going on with the animals, and I've been going to, the Veterinary Association for Pain Veterinarians has been big and up and coming, and I have a feeling that they're some of the people that are behind all this layering of all these drugs. And I went to the NABC online back in January because I had to get my continuing education credits, and there was a woman on there, and she was discussing the use of all different kinds of drugs, from and these were all the antidepressants. So we're talking Prozac, Zoloft, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, well, we've found out that they help in the pain cascade in one step of the pain response. So she was up there talking in front of all these vets, and she's like, they would be a really good addition to the whole to the 4 other stack drugs that we're using, to throw these in there. And she's like, we really don't have much research on them, but I've been using some in my practice, and I would just love to hear you guys out in private practice, your stories of how you start to use them as well. So it was carte blanche. She said these are off-label use, but it was carte blanche permission to one of the largest veterinary continuing education audiences in the country to tell them, here, go out and try them.
Of course, because
I was
she's
horrified.
Lots of money getting subsidized, but well, who owns the medical community for humans and animals?
Pfizer.
Of course, It's all well,
Pfizer.
that thing the research I did for the ebook. God
Well,
love
I'm
my
really glad. I'm so glad you did that, because I read through it. Like I learned all that when I was in vet school, hanging out with all these holistic vets. But
Sure.
here's the other thing, Norma, there's this whole cancel culture. Like, we don't want to hear about that. We're going to put blinders on about that, tear the statue down. We don't want to hear the history, but that history is so important.
It's huge. I figured if
It is so important.
1 out of 100 people who see that actually pay attention and start to make changes, then I've done a good thing. Now,
because that's the foundation to where we got now, to where they can engineer a gene in a lab and inject it into a global population and take over the human genome.
of
You
course.
know, it all started back with Rockefeller
Oh,
and
yes.
all of that.
Carnegie and Flexner. God
Yes.
love Flexner. Couldn't you just dig him up?
Oh, I know.
I'd like to dig them all up just so I could shoot them all.
They closed, like Rockefeller started the American Medical Association so they could close all the homeopathic colleges.
Yes, they denigrated everything that was good and natural and successful. So because they couldn't patent it, they couldn't make money. And if you're in the new petroleum business, you may as well use that those byproducts.
All those,
you can make money.
Yeah.
And
that, byproducts, as reverence, I have an online group that actually Amrys was part of. And one of the books, we had a book club in there called The Omnivore's Dilemma. And he goes through how the petroleum industry has literally taken over our food supply, with all the GMOs and the fertilizers and all of the garbage going in. It's just.
Well, that's why I've gotten to the point where I don't go to a regular supermarket. I live in sort of the edge of Amish country. So I've got some Mennonite and Amish
you're so lucky.
Yeah. So I go to a turkey farm once a month, Cox Turkey Farm, and they
nice.
supply like Whole Foods and so they've got healthy, naturally raised turkeys, yada yada. I just went 3 days ago. I came back with my 200 pounds of turkey parts, and I blend and the right ratios. The cats, the dog, everybody eats raw.
That's great that you have that.
I go to the local goat farm. I get my raw goat milk. They make cheese from goat milk, so I get the cheese. It's fabulous. I have friends who have chickens. They've got a whole flock of chickens, so I go to their farm. $2 a dozen for nice, fresh, free-range eggs. Can't beat that. Yeah. I go to Bell and Evans Poultry is 40 minutes from me. I can go to their store and buy all of their organic chicken. I love the way they do it. They're
Are they? Because we get it down here, but I haven't known much about that company.
Okay, if you the real quick thing, and if you go to their website, they have a whole tour. They'll take you on a virtual tour of the farm. But
that's cool.
This guy, I don't know him personally, but a friend of mine is a friend of his, and she started telling me the story. And then I went to the website. They have a system where, first of all of their little chicks are hatched in small local farms. They're all free range and doing their little thing. And then they get transported just a few miles to when it's time for them to go night-night, but they're all in climate controlled trucks and whatnot. They're not like you see on the highway with place. He has this great big huge room, if you will. It's they get gas. They don't get get hung up and get sleep. They go in their little beds and they go night with their little gas, and then they I think that's only one of 2 of those facilities in the country.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. It's very, when he did this years ago, it was very expensive, like millions of dollars to do this. But he's a really
that's good to know then.
Everything there is humanely raised and humanely it's not euthanasia for any of them, because they're not in misery. They're not they're not being put out of their misery, but still they just go in a little climate controlled room and they go to sleep. If you're gonna do it, let's do it that way. So Bill and Evans is great. I get a lot of my vegetables locally, and now I have a teeny postage stamp size piece of property with my house now, my 260-year-old house I live in the borough.
But that's neat. Yeah.
but I turned my driveway into a garden. I have raised garden
great.
boxes that I made. I
Oh, great.
now have about 150 square feet of garden space, and
Oh, that's awesome.
if we ever stop having these cold nights, I've got to get my seeds planted. And they're all organic, and
heirloom seeds, heirloom, yeah. That's what I just bought a bunch of seeds, but we're on like the opposite growing season down here. I have a community supported agriculture. It's a farmer, so I just give him for like $250 at the beginning of the growing season, and then I can go down and pick up all my produce from him.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yesterday was the last day for the produce because it's getting too hot down here to grow. But I've still got, the property I live on, it doesn't have a lot of flat space. There's a little bit of space that I'm thinking of squeezing in some raised beds, but I've got like a potted herbal garden. I've got cherry tomatoes. I've got, all my herbs and stuff like that going.
Well, I'm getting to be old, so I don't like all this spending.
It's a lot of work. Yeah.
I have these these boxes made, and they're about 30 inches off the ground.
Okay.
So I don't have to about run off, or if a neighbor gets some, God knows.
Yeah.
And I don't have.
That's great.
There's hardly any weeds. I mean, it's really, and I feed my horse organic feed too. I do special organic for her. So I go to the farm and I get the aged manure and then the real aged manure, which is now basically just topsoil. And so that's going into my garden boxes. So my horse, money that I paid to feed her organic is now going to produce some vegetables for me. So yay, full cycle.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So you're doing this program with the supplement company, or did you mention something about William?
So Will Falconer, Will retired. My friend started as a client about 5 or 6 years ago, became friends. Jason Donis had been working with Will in some capacity. And then when Will retired, Jason actually bought the rights to
all of his stuff.
And now but he's changed the company name recently to Vengeance, and he's did it purposely because he wants to take vengeance on the pharmaceutical companies. God love him. Different spelling, but but he's taken Will's products, and there were only a handful, 3 of them, I think originally, the transfer factor, the detox, and now we have and now he has a wonderful joint support. But we've been working with a wonderful Ayurvedic medical. Scott's wonderfully. He's a PhD in cellular biology and Ayurvedic medicine.
Oh, that's cool.
He's converted the products for humans and animals all to a tasteless, odorless liquid.
Really? How did he do that? That's wild. Wow.
Brilliant. He's amazing. He's out in Oregon, and Scott's here about 2 hours from me in Pennsylvania.
But for cat, like something like that for cats would be really.
And you can either you can drop it in their mouth, you can spray it, or you can spray it on their food. So and
if it's tasteless, because there's some animals that you just can't get stuff into.
I have 10 cats.
And cats are horrible about that.
They are.
As Amrys knows, she's like,
Amrys has got her cats too. It's just amazing that what he's been able to do. And
interesting.
So, and the other thing, the reason Jason called me about a year ago and said, look, we're doing this. We're just finalizing this agreement with Will, and he's going to be, working with us a little bit. Well, Will's in India, communing with who knows, forget it.
When I heard he went over there, I was like, he's not going to come back. He's not going to come back to this madness. He's preparing for his death into the next realm.
It's really hard to, and with the time difference, it's like we're trying to set up Zooms, and I was like, it's crazy. But Jason said, look, what I want to do in conjunction with the products, he said, I want to create an online course for canine health coaches. For equine health coaches. And then my another friend who he wanted her to do the same thing for humans. So
That's a
how
lot.
this whole thing started.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I've got the pretty much most of the work for 8 modules for this done. But everything takes longer than, than
Oh
you think.
yeah. It's a lot of work to do
And in the
that.
meantime, the guy who was supposed to be doing all the marketing and all the developing and creating my website and the whole thing, got COVID, went to the hospital. He and his mother both, they died within 2 hours of one another. And this is a horrible thing to say, and I don't mean this, but if Frank had not died, we would not have found out that he was stealing. He had stolen over $100,000. He hadn't done what he was trying to be doing. And he was this far from being able to have stolen the patents on the products too. His death stopped all of that.
Wow.
Divine intervention, I don't know, but that put everything back. So Jason had asked he wanted to do this ebook, and he wanted to get it because he and Ava Frick had connected, and she invited him to be a presenter at the Senior Doug Summit that was just last week. And we are now, Vengeance is now ongoing. We're a supporter and a contributor to the Pet Summit, the whole bit, which is great.
Who is the Pet Summit? Who does this Pet Summit?
Dr. Ava Frick.
Okay.
And they just did last week. They did it was the senior.
Summit. I saw
and
that. Yeah.
Jason she had interviewed Jason for a segment of that, which is fine. And this ebook had to be done. Well, I sent you both versions. The one that I did with all of the history and all. Well, they decided that was way too long and too much, and people would never take the time to read it. So they came up with this much shortened version, which said basically nothing. And I understand from a marketing perspective, and maybe that was fine. But I may be biased, but I like my version better. My version actually told me something. And the whole idea was supposed to be how to choose a proper practitioner. How do you know what type of practitioners there are? How do you choose the right one for you? I did the history so they would know where we are, how we got there, and now how do you go forward? As I said, I may be biased, but I thought that was a good book. Yeah. But it didn't get published, but that's okay. But I have it. It's my work, and I share it. And I know, and I'm assuming Christina Chambreau. I'm assuming.
She was one of my mentors, and she was one of my mentors in vet school. Christina.
Oh, okay. Because she also contacted me and asked me to send her a copy. I'm going to send her both copies too, because I think it doesn't tell you anything.
Well, I mean, you could sell those. You could put those out there as an ebook. And sell it for like $10.
That was the whole purpose, that was supposed to be the ebook, but the one that he came up with was, it doesn't tell you anything. And it was going to be a free, putting that out as a free ebook. I'm not sure, because he didn't use my content. So I think that's now my intellectual property. And I think I can put it out there.
Because if he whittled it all down, I read the long version. I don't even know. Let me look while we're here. I read the long version of it and not the short version.
Okay, and the short version basically, well, I'd be interested if you get a chance. I mean, it will take
I'll look at
it. 10 minutes to read it, because it doesn't really, yes, it tells you, oh, they did this bad thing, and the pharmaceutical company did, the industry did that, and, Rockefeller was bad, but it doesn't, and it goes into nothing about how to determine even to identify the different types of practitioners and the questions asked. I had a whole thing on how you interview, and it's the time to know that you're in concert with a practitioner is before you have an emergency. You need to know this ahead of time.
Norma, there's not a lot of practitioners out there.
I know.
Not a lot of practitioners that think like you do, that think like I do, that are out there. Now,
I don't have anyone I call on. I have a dog now that I would love to be able to have somebody, to work with, to say, am I going crazy? I've done this and this. I don't know what else to do. But I don't have.
I might have to work with you. But there's nobody to. There's a bunch of people that have jumped on the holistic bandwagon. I think you
holistic
mentioned something about this,
holistic.
and I don't even like to use that word anymore because it's been so taken over. And it's almost come to mean raw food, but then you get into the raw feeding community and it's vicious.
Oh,
It's like you're in a pit and they're like vicious.
They're nuts. And there's so much misinformation. It's crazy.
And then people get sidetracked onto these little itty bitty things where it's like, let's stand back and look at the big picture. It's nuts.
That's why I am so grateful to the universe for putting me in a state where I was able to, a physical and emotional and spiritual state where I was able to realize, to become aware of what it is I'm supposed to be doing, and that I had the ability to do it. I needed to do a lot of work to get the information, but I had the innate desire and the capacity to bring this all together. My spiritual,
and I think the younger people need to hear this, because I feel the same way. Like it's a path, and it doesn't all come to you at once, and you can't go and put this shingle out that you're a master of this or a master of that all at once. You know what I mean? But it all, like you said, it all ends up working out, and you're in the right place at the right time for where you're supposed to be.
I've been doing this my whole life, but professionally for 27 years. When I realized what I was doing, I've always done this with animals. I've always talked to them. I've always had this innate understanding. I much prefer the company of animals to people in general. I've always done better in the woods, walking my dog or riding my horse in the woods with the deer and whatnot than I wouldn't go to a cocktail party if you paid me, but
that's my happy place too.
But it is just, how about you quiet yourself, you center, and you focus on the animal, you listen to them, you let them tell you in whatever way you get it. I'm teaching a communications workshop on the 1st of May for a small group of people. I love doing that. I don't do them very often because I'm not like, some of these people who call themselves animal communicators, and this is my schedule, and this is what I'm going to be. When I have a small group of people who say, or I had this started out with one client who said, "Oh, I'd love to learn how to do that," and I said, "Well, you're already doing it. You just don't recognize it."
Exactly.
But I can help. She said, "Can you teach me how to do it?" And I said, "I can't teach you to be telepathic. You are telepathic. I can teach you how to recognize,
start listening,
and how to calm that inner voice, and how to get to a place and to recognize the form." Some people hear words. I'm a person of words, obviously. I hear words, lots of them. Some people, I have an artist friend beautiful, wonderful artist, who all she has ever gotten from her animals is colors and pictures, but she knows exactly what they mean. So you get it in your own way. And I say, look, you listen to me. When I do TTOUCH, Linda Tellington-Jones used to get so upset at me. Ours was this was the first time she ever did a class on the East Coast. It had always been West Coast in Europe. Decided that she was
because she was out in California.
Yes. She came to the first one and she liked our class. So she came to every single freaking one of our trainings, every 2.5, 3 months, 2 weeks with her. But she would, and I was just really into, as a matter of fact, I had just discovered that I could actually hear animals. But when I would be doing I was learning TTOUCH, but I'd also be communicating with the animals, and she found that, no, you can't do that at the same time. She used to get so upset at me and go like, what the hell are you talking about?
There's no separation. It's gonna come.
It just happens.
I finally realized, and this took me a long time because I've been in practice. I've been doing this. I realized I've had my house call practice. It's almost 22 years now. And then before that, I had several years where I worked with other people, but I realized why I got so annoyed when new clients would call me on the phone, because they'd call me on the phone and they'd start describing their animal and what was going on. And I just automatically clicked into that animal and started like doing the reading, started getting the information. But it takes a lot of energy. And so I really, but the realization of that helped me set up a boundary going, okay, now I'm going to turn this off now. We'll file the information.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when you set an appointment with me, then we can go in depth and you can have my full attention.
Yeah.
Because they'll start, I swear, like and I've always told people that animals, I swear they send out a beaming signal to me, because the ones I've shown up at people's, because I have a house call practice, but I've shown up at their doors and the animal's just like, well, you finally made it here. It took you long enough.
That happens to me
You know?
all the time. It's so amazing. And, you know, and the cat who absolutely disappears the minute anybody comes into the house. I walk in, the cat comes over, rubs all of me. I sit down, the cat's in my lap, on my shoulder, and the person's going, what? I can't help it. It's just what happens. And then the really friendly dogs, though, sometimes they'll cower and they'll be really. Well, my dog isn't like that. And I say, but your dog knows that I'm about to get into his head in a way that's never happened. And it's a little disconcerting for him until he gets it. He doesn't quite understand. And within 15 to 20 minutes, the dog's in my lap.
They warm up.
But it's amazing. These animals know. They know what we're thinking. They know what we're feeling.
Yes.
They know us and we know ourselves.
That's why I'll have people like try to hide their tears when an animal is getting ready to pass. And I'm like, you can't, they want to go in another room to talk about it. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
I love the people who spell it. I said, excuse me. Well, my dog doesn't know how to spell. I said, but you can't spell or speak a word until you have a synapse in your brain. That energy is what your dog or cat or horse or goat is getting. I said, you think it, you speak it, you spell it doesn't matter. They know. And people go, huh?
I know. I would love for you. This is part of, this online group. I have it on Mighty Networks. I completely went off social media so that I can have my own little private group. I would love for you. We have to talk, but I would love for you to come on and do something for that, because that's part of what I want people to open up their hearts and reconnect to that connection that we all have. They all have it anyways. And not just to the animals, but to the trees and to the plants and to the sky and to the earth. You know,
yes, and hell yes.
Yes, because I'm doing this Celtic Imran right now, which is kind of a 4-month retreat with this woman over in Avalon. But we are just diving. She's gathered together the Dragon Fire Star Sisters of Gaia, and we're just working with her. We're going to do some like earth magic.
Oh, it's amazing you mentioned dragons. I have 3. I can say this to you. On my spiritual team for years, I have 3. They're triplets. 3 purple dragons. Oh my God, they're so amazing. And I also have
that's my favorite color too.
I know. And also it's a beautiful healing color. And I have an amazing unicorn who has been with me. I mean, unicorns stay with the soul forever, which is amazing. Agatha, I was driving home one night. I had a friend following me. We had just had dinner together. She was visiting from out of state. We're driving back to my farm, and all of a sudden I hear this voice in my head, and she introduced herself. Hi, I'm Agatha. And I'm like, okay. And she says, I'm your unicorn. And I'm like, okay. And she's telling me all these amazing things. Well, we get back to my farm, we get out of the car, and my friend Karen, her previous life, she had been in private protection. She protected like a sheikh's daughter whenever they would come to the States, and she and her husband both had, personal protection. She was a little bit of a thing. You wouldn't have ever guessed it, but she could put you down in a heartbeat. But she's very good at following, and traffic, surveilling well. So we get back to my farm. She gets out of her car and she looked at me. She said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm fine." Why? She said, "You were driving a little, not really erratic, but a little." And so I told her, I said, "Well, this is what happened." And she said, "Oh my God, that's amazing." She said, "Well, I had your back, not to worry." She said, "It wasn't bad, but I knew something had to be going on."
Well, I was talking to a unicorn.
I was talking to a unicorn.
That sounds like me. That sounds like me. Oh my
Leprechauns.
God.
I said, I tell people what happens to the animal souls when they leave their body. I said they go to I call it a spiritual space. the animals refer to it as the garden of the animals. I've had animals take me there in meditation. It's just the most phenomenal experience. And, you know, and Rolf, who is a leprechaun, I mean, Rolf is really he's the caretaker of this whole
You're
thing.
triggering like all these things in my head from my childhood. I had this little stuffed unicorn I would take everywhere with me, and it just is all like coming back that I haven't thought about.
There are so few people I can have this kind of conversation with because I think I'm a total kid. But I say, you know what? I have had so many spiritual experiences. I've gone to planets that people don't even know exist. I've gone into the to GEM and gone into the Akashic records and seen what I needed to see and done what I needed to do and yada yada. Those things don't tell me those aren't real. Those are real experiences. Everything that you can see and touch and smell and hear on this planet is not all there is to life, folks. Oh my God, thank God there's so much more. I mean, pathetic. If this was the one and only time,
oh my God,
the one and only place you had to do it, I mean, how sad would that be to think
I would be
that?
so bored too. I would be so bored.
I said, people say, oh, reincarnation. I don't believe in reincarnation. I said, you know what? I talked to a horse very early on, many years ago. I talked to a horse when I was first really getting my experience with this conscious experience. And I talked to this horse and I said, do horses, like animals in general, do horses believe in reincarnation? The most perfect answer in the world, you will love this. He said, we don't believe in reincarnation any more than humans believe in breathing. We just do it.
Do it. Okay? Exactly. I knew you were going to say that. What do you mean? I had a friend of mine had this whole like spiritual emergency Kundalini crisis. And he saw, when he was in the middle of it, he saw one of my spiritual teachers, a Tibetan, the Karmapa, and he recognized him as who he was by his robes. And the Tibetan Tom was like, he thought he was dying. He met him, and he's like, I'm dying. Which way do I go? And the Karmapa looked at him and he's like, what is dying? What do you mean by dying? It's kind of the same thing. It's, it happens. But I have so many stories of clients who have had animals reincarnate and come back to them. I mean, my cat, she's on her third body now with me, I mean, she's my cat.
Well, the shepherd who just left me a year and a half ago, very suddenly, very unexpected. He was very young, but when he went in 30 seconds from happy, healthy to dead in my.
That happened to my friend shepherd.
I was devastated, but when I was able to get myself together enough later that night to connect with him, Hadi said, now that was the 6th body that soul had been with me in. And he said, Mom, I'm really sorry. He said, I really didn't want to, I really was torn. I didn't really want to leave you, but Rolf called me back because this project that we're working on. And I said, yes, I know what the animal kingdom is working on. For 20 years now, it's been progressing and I get it. He said, well, Rolf called me back to work with him in this very important position because this is a very old soul. And I put that, and I said, okay, so, but don't worry, there's an old friend waiting to come back to you, and you'll have your new dog. Animals communicate time in terms of dark and light cycles. I don't know what an hour is because humans made it up, but a dark and light cycle. So in 2 dark and lights, he said I would have my new dog. It was an old friend coming back, and I said, would it happen to be Morning Star? And he said, well, it is. Okay, fine. Well, I mean, this whole history between those 2 dogs was just amazing. I won't take that, but
they do, they'll send other dogs right. Yes. Like I was talking to somebody about this the other day, because I'll have one animal die and somebody else will get it's like, oh, go take care of them now.
Well, this girl, this soul, this Morning Star soul came back to me, and this was this would be the 4th time this soul has been with me. The history is just freaking amazing. So here's the thing, in the last 10, 12 years, 15 years, I don't ever go looking for an animal. They contact, I suddenly hear in my head, hi, they tell me who they were, who they are now, how I will find and identify them, what they want to be called, and what their job is this time. And
Wow.
every single time, like this Hattie, the one who passed away, I got this message, my Shepherd Leonberger passed away at 13. I rescued her when she was 3. She had 48 hours to live at a shelter in Connecticut. They were going to kill her because she was so vicious. She and I started the Read to the Dog program at my local library. Later, that's how vicious she was. She was fabulous. But she passed away at 13. 2.5 days later, I'm sitting here and I get this message in my head. Hi, Mom. I'm ready to come back and live here. This is Sundance, the Shepherd Chow Samoyed Husky I had for 15 years, my love of my life.
Oh, wow.
I'm ready to come back and live with you. And, I said, look, I never make any kind of restrictions or restraints or whatever on what kind of animal. The only thing I ever ask for a dog is that it's not a min pin or a chihuahua. That's all I ask. I just anything else, But I said, but this time, if I had a choice this time, I would vote for a black male, full German line shepherd between 1 and 2 years of age. He said, no problem, you'll know soon. 36 hours later, I get an urgent email from German Shepherd Rescue of Pennsylvania. 16-month-old black male, full German shepherd in desperate need of a home. He's about to be shot by his owner.
So they can drop in, because my cats did. I got her vision. She's like, she was gone 2 years, and then I got a dream, and I saw this cat in this circular driveway, black, the whole thing. And sure enough, there was this kitten one night, late at night, I barely saw it, circular driveway, little black kitten jumping up and down over these bushes. But I got out of the car. Yes. And I got out of the car. It was pitch black. And before I opened my car door, I was like, Gollum, if that's you, you've got to sit still. I'm not going to run after you. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to chase you. I'm not doing that game right now. I walked up, and this kitten literally rolled over on her back in front of me. And I reached down and picked her up. It was like,
I know. Well,
it happens.
Not only did they do that, but when I said to this dog this time, I said, okay, fine. What do you want to be called this time? He said, you will call me Hadi. They always tell me, and he spelled it Hadi. I said, okay, fine. Well, we won't be running into any of those anytime soon. Great. It's not like Bear or, Bailey. So I said, what is your job this time? And he said, well, Mom, last time I had several jobs with you, he said, but this time I don't have a specific job, but I know that what you're trying to do, what you've been doing, is helping to try to enlighten people and to bring light to the planet. I simply want to be with you to help support you in that effort. And I said, that works. I went online. I would say I hung up the phone. I hung up the phone. I went online and I went to look up the meaning of the name Hadi. I knew it had to be Arabic, and that makes sense too, but it's an Arabic name meaning going into the light.
Wow.
I said, okay, that makes sense. And so my German dog coming with an Arabic name, I'm half German, half Arabic. So
really? Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's interesting.
My horse now, I have a Hanoverian Oldenburg cross who is the reincarnation of my Arabian soul. So they make it so clear to me. It's just
wow. Yeah.
But how do you make that up? Okay, I said, this is the kind of dog I'd like to have. 36 hours later, he's put in front of me. He tells me the name he wants and what his job is going to be. And I look it up, and that's exactly what the name is. You can't make this crap up.
No, you can't. No, if you were sitting there daydreaming about it, you couldn't make it up.
No,
that's the whole thing.
Yeah, I know. And, when Morningstar, the first time I found Morningstar, she tells me she's a young female shepherd. She directs me how to find her. And then she says she's the dog with the big thing growing in her right ear that's been there for a long time. It's very painful. I get to the SPCA in Minersville, Pennsylvania. I didn't know there was a Minersville. She directs me there. I get there and I say, you have a young female German shepherd? She said, I said, long coat? She said, yes. Did you lose? I said, no. She said, well, yeah, we just got her in 2 days ago. And I said, well, I think I'm supposed to see this dog. So we're walking through and I said, so tell me what's wrong with her right ear. And she said, nothing. Why do you ask? And I said, well, because she tells me there's a big thing growing in it and it hurts. And this one looked at me like, and I thought, oh crap, what did I just say? She won't let me talk to the dog. So we get there. She's really not happy about this. You can tell she wants to get a straight jack and get me out of there. Pull the dog out of her little space, and her little German Shepherd left ear is right up and, you know, beautiful like it should be, and the right ear is flopping down. I gently lifted the ear. There was this massive tumor, oozing, disgusting stuff. And this woman looked at me and she looked at the ear and she looked back and she said, holy crap, you talked to her. And I said, well, yeah, that's what I do. She then became so fascinated. Now the dog had been there 2 days, no tag, no collar, no nothing. Obviously had just recently finished nursing puppies, so was not spayed. She broke every law in the book and sent the dog. Oh, and I lived in New Jersey at the time, and this was here in Pennsylvania. She sent the dog to another state with me after 2 days. No, I mean,
without rabies holes and all that stuff.
This is your dog, clearly. So, you know how I just hallucinated.
It all works out.
Like the long coat female shepherd with a big thing in her right ear. I mean,
Oh, totally.
I had that kind of imagination. So yeah, it's that's why I say my practice has just taken on a life of its own. It guides me where I'm supposed to be. And I don't I don't charge $500 to go observe a dog, and then $200 an hour to work with, to train on drugs.
Well, there's another woman here who opened up like a holistic practice. It's doing acupuncture and rehab and stuff. And they're using mistletoe now for cancer treatment. And she's been using some of that and I can't get a hold of it. This is another thing where I have had major roadblocks on getting near that stuff. So I'm just like, all right, if I'm supposed to have it, I'm supposed to have it. But anyways, I found out she was misusing it, but I sent her one of my like top clients. The man has 8 golden retrievers. He's a fashion photographer. He just came out with the TTOUCH book on his goldens. Because one of his dogs, I've treated like 23 of his dogs that are in that book, but one of them showed up with bone cancer. So I called her up. I'm like, listen, I'm sending him over. Could you use, do the mistletoe therapy on him, check him out. She's like, well, he came here and no, I can't come to the house. I told her, because he's used to having everybody come to his house. In order for her to do a house call to go over and do the subcutaneous injections, she told me, oh, well, it would be $300 to drive up into his driveway. But yet she won't give me the injections to give him. She just walked away from like one of the most famous golden retriever owners in this country right now. And then he called me. He's like, I mentioned her name to him and he's like, Dr. Josie, I'm never going back to that woman. I talked to her twice and she couldn't even remember my name and remember who I was or who my dog was. Boom.
Unbelievable. And then I've got a client who's basically, he's a retired physician and he's become a friend. He has a dog who's now 18, a hound mix. When Joey was 15, his vet told him that growth on Joey's gum was cancer, so he should just have the dog put down because it would grow and then he wouldn't be able to eat, and it just put him out of his misery now at 15. Jeffrey, he cries at the thought of his dog even having, a hangnail. So, okay, he called me and told me, and I said, no, I'll be over. I use redox signaling molecules for everything. I adore this. I could not live without my redox signaling molecules. Took the gel, took a tube, and I said, just, rub it on this 2, 3, 4, 12 times a day, whenever you think of it. It'll take a while, but it's gonna leave. About 42 days later, he calls me and says, that thing on Joey's gum? He said, it's gone. I said, yeah, I know, it's fine. So then about, I don't know, when was it? Oh, it was a year ago last week. He calls me on a Saturday in tears, literally. Joey's dying. He's having a massive stroke. Now, he's a physician, retired physician. He understands the signs of a stroke. He said, can you do that thing you do? He says, meld with his soul and ask him if he wants to me to try to car, go to the vet, or is it, And I said, no, I won't. He said, what do you mean you won't? I said, no, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I took my my molecules in the bottle of liquid and 1 essential oil and my little mister. And I started, Joey was down and out. He was not in good shape. 17. I misted his eyes. I did the little brainstem thing with the oil. I told him what to do with it. That was a year ago last week when I was at Jeffrey's house day before yesterday to let the dogs out because he had a long day. Joey was the first one bouncing at the door, jumping up and down. He turned 18 in December. He's getting stronger and stronger. But about 3 months ago, Jeffrey called me and said, Joey's dying. I have to let him go. I said, he's getting so weak in the hind end. He's all hysterical. I said, Jeffrey, I'll be there.
I have patients that are just like this, though. It's like, no, they're not dying. Let me just come over. Just hold on.
So I said, Joey, honey, are you dying? He said, well, yes, but not now. Someday. Okay. So I said, so I did a little TTOUCH on him. And I said, okay, so what message do you really want your dad to know? What's the most important message? And he said to me, please tell him to stop talking about having someone come here to kill me.
Oh
and
my
I
God.
looked at Jeffrey and I told him, I said, Jeffrey, what have you been doing? He had called the person who comes to do in-home euthanasia. He had called that person twice.
Oh my
and
God.
The person, thank God, was too busy and couldn't get there until like the following Monday. I said, you call that person back and you tell them you do not need them Monday. If and when you need them, you will let them know. And stop talking about it because that's making Joey crazy. Now that was 3 months ago, and Joey is now bouncing around and running around the backyard. So I go like, please, people.
Yeah. I think it's so like the fear of death and the anticipation that people get them in, because I have so many clients like that. And I'm like, I try to bring them back. It's coming back into that center place and that just present moment. And I'm like, look at your dog right now and how full of life they are. And
my dog, my Hardy was, he was the picture of health and vitality, but he was gone in 30 seconds, but he had said to me, Mom, I'm sorry, but I had to do it in a way that would be really quick for both of us because I could not do it any other way. This was going to be too painful. Well, thank God he was able to do that because,
Tom, my good friend, because he does a lot of animal communication just naturally, but he had a shepherd mix that he rescued off the streets down here in Little Haiti. And that dog, he was about 6 months old, but he came to us with a broken leg, and this Haitian guy had just taken an asphalt shingle and strapped it on the dog's leg, never got it properly set. When I took him in for x-rays, I was like, it was straight, the radius and ulna, it had healed straight enough and had a good callus. I wasn't going to go in there and re-break it. But anyways, that dog stayed with him every day. He had him trained to hand signals. He had such a good, huge heart, and he was so bonded. And when he was about 12 years old, he started getting a little bit weak in the hind end and stuff because we lived together. And then one day I got a call. I was out seeing appointments and Tom was on the phone, and Tom used to be a paramedic firefighter. So he's like, emergency crisis medicine person. He called me up. He's like, I just let Phoenix in. His name was Phoenix. I let Phoenix in from the backyard and he just collapsed. And I don't know what's wrong with him. And I was like, listen, I'm on 95. I'll be there. And there was an emergency clinic around the corner from us. By the time I got there, he called me back actually 10 minutes later. And he's like, he's gone. He just died. But I think it was like probably hemangio that ruptured, but he was never showed any signs of anything. And it was so sudden. But Tom had sat down the week previous to that, and he told him, he said, because they were so close, he would have, it was the same thing. It just needed to like rip apart quick. But he told them, he said, I don't want you to get to the point, Phoenix, where you can't get up and walk and you can't be the dog you are. So if you need to go, you go when you need to go. And it was like 10 days.
And sometimes our animals need us to be able to release them, to tell them that, because they will hang on, and sometimes they will hang on to their detriment. They will be in pain or whatever.
Oh, I've seen them. I've seen like bodies rotting in dogs, and they're like still, I don't know what's keeping them alive, but it's because that attachment. That's
Yeah, sometimes we inadvertently, because we love them so much and we can't let them go and we can't live without them, and they know all that. So they're trying desperately to hang on as long as they can for our sake. I say to people, if you truly love that animal and you want what is best for them, you will say, look, I love you, I will miss you, and I will grieve your loss, but I am not asking you to stay here for my benefit. I'll be sad, but I will be okay. And you need to do what's best for you. That's all they need sometimes. And I've had people say that, and then, you know, the dog who was dying, you know, rebounds, and they're around for
right?
months. But you need to give them that peace of mind, knowing that you're going to be okay. And then sometimes they're okay. So, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is. No, I tell people to do that all the time, though. To give them that permission.
I have a feeling that, you know, we must probably be twin sisters with different mothers.
I know, because there's so many like similarities. Yeah.
That's amazing. But to get back, I mean, what you mentioned about this other group having the, you know, whatever, absolutely. My goal in life, and it's a very lofty goal, and I know that it is an unachievable goal, but you always have to strive for that. My goal is I would love to be able to teach every person in the world who has an animal companion who that animal really is, what they're really all about, why they're with them, how to keep them healthy and happy, and yada, yada. Well, I can't do it for all of them, but if I can do it for a few, I'm happy. If I can do it for a lot, I'm even happier. So anytime I can talk to anybody that will give them even a teeny bit of insight or a new idea about who that animal really is, and you know what they need from them, that's what I live for these days. So
yeah, it would be awesome to do like a small class, and then even put you on, you know, I can put as referrals and stuff. I don't know how how busy you are, but I'm like, I always have a waiting list, so I can't.
And I don't. See, this is the thing. I say, I'm just doing something wrong because I don't charge a lot of money. I mean, you know, it's a lot of money depending on how you look at it, but by comparison to others, I charge very little. I give way more time and way more energy and way more information than anybody else I know who does. I don't know anybody who does the comprehensive stuff that I do, but still. And my intention is always for the benefit of the animals, and yet all these other people are much busier. Like, what's going on, universe? Well, but my thought is maybe it's just I'm having open time and energy so that when something like an opportunity comes along where people really do need information, so I'm good. You know, I say, so what do I need? I need to have enough financial wherewithal to take care of my living expenses and to keep my animals healthy and happy. I don't need anything else. I don't travel. I don't take vacations. I don't need a new car, maybe someday, but not right now. I love my old house. I don't really need that much. So
well, and sometimes we coast along, and sometimes it gets busier too, you know. So
well, I mean, there are times when I am really, really busy. Well, my thing is I get very busy a lot, but I do a lot that I don't charge for. Like I was with this woman for 4 hours yesterday, and I didn't charge her a penny. But I did take another rep. The same pit bull. Oh, you love this. The other thing was,
but you should start charging for your time, woman, because it's valuable. It's valuable.
But the vet who is no longer, but his practice is still down the street from me. Last August, he did an X-ray of this dog's leg because she was limping a little bit, and he said, "Oh yeah, she's got a cruciate tear, but I don't think it requires surgery." But he didn't give her anything about, you know, diet or supplements or anything to help. Of course, just take her home, and if she starts to limp again, then she'll need surgery. So that was last August.
I love that.
Because he committed suicide at Thanksgiving, and so now we're in April, so it would have been the very end of March. This dog started to limp a little bit. So she said, okay, fine. So she called the surgeon she called his office, his previous office, and they called the surgeon, made a referral for her. So she takes the dog to the surgeon, this really whoop-de-doo specialist. 2 weeks ago. Now, this dog had, apparently the referring vet's office said that, she'd had the incident with the dog, and so she was a pit bull, and so you be careful. So the surgeon goes out to the car in the parking lot, looks at the dog, and the dog wasn't anxious to get out of the car. So, and he had no patience for that. He looked at the dog through the window and said, yeah, okay, well, we'll schedule her for surgery on the 13th of April. In the meantime, she has to be on trazodone. And when you bring her in for surgery that morning, you give her trazodone and you put her in a, in a really tight muzzle. They would then go out to the car. They would anesthetize her in the car. Well, they would sedate her and then take her in for surgery. And that's how they would deal with it. He hasn't, not only did he not have his hands on the dog, he hasn't seen an x-ray.
He hasn't even watched the dog walk.
He didn't watch the dog walk. He didn't do anything. So when she called me, she's telling me
I just don't get it. Well, nobody is practicing medicine. You know what I want to come out with? It's not only the opioid crisis, but nobody is even practicing medicine at all. You can't tell me that. Because I saw 2 days ago, I saw a very similar case. A dog, an older pit bull. The family, a chiropractor had referred the case over to me, and she said, I've got this really nice pit bull. Well, they live in a poor part of town. African-American, it's a single mother. She's got 2 older daughters. Her one daughter's up in college in Gainesville. The dog, I get to the house and I was like, damn, I didn't ask. I coming into a dog's territory, I always ask, is it a friendly dog? Is it what, So I get up, by this time I'm up to the door. I'm over with the mask thing, but the woman's all freaked out because I don't have a mask on. So I'm like, all right, yeah. So, and then I'm like, is the dog, by the way, is the dog friendly? As I'm talking to her through a dog gate they have up, and then the screen door that's all chained in, but it's a bad neighborhood at the same time. The dog is like, rah, 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 charging at the door. So I'm like, do I just say, oh, your daughter's not here, I gotta go, I have an emergency, or what do I do? So I'm like, all right, I'm here, let me go in and evaluate. So the daughter said, my mother's there and my other sister's there, they'll put a muzzle on her and she's usually fine after that. So I'm watching them, they put a good muzzle on her and go in. And once I'm in there, the dog is sitting quietly by the woman's side with the muzzle on. And so I'm watching her walk, and she's like toe tapping on this right back leg. I'm like, first of all, her legs are totally bow-legged. And that was my first thing was like, she's really bow-legged, have you had her since a puppy? And the woman was like, well, you're the first vet that even commented on that. I mean, it's like severe to the point where her back end is like malformed. And so that's going to put all kinds of crazy pressure on the ligaments.
Probably
and so
her nails are probably too long too.
Yeah, well, no, her nails were fine. But so then I asked about x-rays. They've been going to VCA. And
God help us.
When she first started limping, and she just had a mild limp, and they said they would not do x-rays on the dog's leg unless they signed a contract stating that they would go ahead with the surgery afterwards. They would not even do the x-rays unless she signed a contract to do the surgery. I was like, yeah, that was my reaction. I'm like, what? That's insane. So they had, they went from one corporate office to the next. So then they go to Banfield and they get the x-rays done at Banfield. So she throws the x-rays up on her computer. And I'm not kidding you, I can't keep from laughing. They have the lateral of the dog, instead of moving the legs away from one another, both back legs were perfectly superimposed upon one another on the lateral x-ray. It was like they had lined them up on purpose. I've never seen 2 legs superimposed. That's
really hard to do.
Perfectly. It's very hard to do. That's what I mean, because I've taken a lot of x-rays. Both tibias are lined. Both tibias are lined up. So here, they don't have a lot of money. I'm already charged, they were like kind of iffy on my charges. And I have to sit there and tell her that the x-rays they took of her dog are completely unreadable, and I can't diagnose anything off of them.
Oh, God.
And then they're like, well, they never mentioned a cruciate rupture. And I'm just like, oh my God,
Well, it's just, I mean, it's one incompetence after another. But when I got to her, what I said to her was, do yourself and your dog a favor, call and cancel the surgery for the 13th. And then if you need to reschedule, fine. But I said, but don't do that. Yeah. And so, okay, fine. And, and take her off the trazodone. So I get there.
Jesus.
Last Sunday. Now they did her fiance had the dog, had a leash on her, and she was like, oh, woof, 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 and wanted to get to me. I came in and I stood there and I had my big bag that I carry all my little goodies in and whatnot. And the dogs always like to smell it. And I also use that as just a little bit of a cushion between my hand and the dog.
I do the same thing.
No, I'm not afraid, but I'm not stupid.
Yeah, but it gives you something.
Right. So when I say, okay, and it redirects the dog's attention to smell something, different, that's fine. And then, so I stood there for probably 20 minutes and I put the bag down. I said, okay, come do your inspection. And she sniffed my leg and my foot and my foot, and sniffed my crotch and my butt. And then she went back and I said, that's fine. I said, take as long as you need. And she would bark every now and then, but then she'd come back. And then she finally went about 3 feet away, laid down and was chewing on a bone. And I said, okay, Gemma, I'm going to walk by you and go sit next to your mom on the couch. I'm not a threat. She said, okay. And I walked by and I sat. She came over, she tried to get in my face and, woof in my face. And I said, whoa, girl, back off.
That's always a nice thing for them to do. Yeah.
She backed off. And then she came back. I said, you may come, but you can't be in my face. And I just gave her direction and she was fine with it.
You set up your boundaries with her. Yeah.
Within a half hour. So her mom is sitting, this is kind of a love seat. She's sitting at one end, I'm sitting at the other. So there's a space, maybe 3 feet in between us. Gemma comes over. She gets up on the love seat. She turns her butt to her mom, turns her face to me, looks at me, licks my hand, rests her chin on my thigh and goes to sleep. Okay. She rolled over. Well, I did a little, what I call a body scan, for lack of a better word. I just felt her legs and just got connected with her. And I said, yeah, she's got a little something going on in her left leg. I don't even think it's the knee. It feels more like a stifle issue. And I said, but the right knee is the right leg's a little more, but again, it doesn't feel like anything major. And she let me, she didn't flinch. She didn't have a problem with my doing anything. So I said, look, I have a therapeutic leg wrap that I was going to market. It's an amazing product, but I'm only one person and my quote unquote partner didn't do anything. So I haven't that, but I had one run of them. I gave her the wrap. That was Sunday. She called me on Wednesday and said, oh my God, I came home from my chemo. That's a whole other issue. We're going to get mom straight now too. But she said she's running around and she's not limping and she's happy and she's doing well. And I said, well, that doesn't mean she's totally fixed, but that therapeutic wrap with all those lovely minerals that helps to heal and whatnot. And they've also converted from kibble to a totally raw diet. I sent them to the butcher who I taught how to do raw food for a balanced diet. They switched everything. They're getting.
You have a butcher there. I'm so jealous. There are no butchers down here.
He called me and asked me if I could teach him how to make a balanced raw dog food diet.
Oh, that's awesome.
I told him when I went in the first time, he had just bought this place, and I said, you know what you've got there for Dr. Really complete and balanced. You can't really sell it unless you put a label that says, it's not. And he said, really, can you teach me? I said, yes. So I've now taught him and it's great.
No, that's awesome. But sometimes it doesn't take a lot, that's the whole thing. Well, this pit bull I worked on, I had her come over, she laid down on her bed and she laid her head in the girl's lap and she let me palpate. She let me do a full acupuncture treatment on her and she fell asleep. It was like, it finally gave her, I swear, it's like sometimes they just need a way to check out and just rest,
And they need somebody who isn't afraid of them and giving off all these jerky vibes and thinking, oh my God, this is a bad dog. And I don't know, somebody with some calm energy and a positive attitude. I mean, that goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. Wow.
So we can clone.
This has been.
I said, we can work on cloning you then. And maybe we could, I want your first clone right here, please. It's tough.
It is. And that's the thing. I mean, I feel like I want, the message to get out to people, because ultimately the consumers should drive things, but I know so many vets who are like in my position that there's only so much we can do. That's why I've, started an online thing to try to get people and to just teach them just basics, like, like a body scan, and just to be connected with their animals so they know what's the right thing and what's the wrong thing, instead of just handing their power away to, well, now, with all the drop-off clinics. Oh yeah, let us just take your dog and we'll do with it what we want. No.
Never, ever. When I did take my animals to a vet for routine checkups and whatnot, never for vaccines. I taught them very early, we don't do vaccines. But I do an exam. But then I found out, as the more I learned, that most veterinarians, they're look, if your dog is standing, breathing, and isn't foaming at the mouth or having, horrendous diarrhea, all of they consider that, okay, that's it, that's the exam. I go, like, so what? I'm going to take a dog for an exam, which isn't really an exam, but they're going to want to inject, toxins, and then they're going to want to give me some more drugs, and
that are going to have side effects that are then
then the flea and tick prevention and the heartworm. That's the module that I want to get out, the first one for this this course that Jay's going to do, but he's not ready to put anything else. I've got the flea, tick, and heartworm prevention, what it's all about, how, and there's so much misinformation and disinformation about heartworm out there that I could just scream.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I want to write my own thing up about the flea and tick and heartworm are on my list. But okay, there's a whole thing with ivermectin. And I don't know where you stand. I've never been opposed to ivermectin.
I'm not opposed to, I have ivermectin in my cabinet for me in case.
Exactly. And then when all this stuff started coming out about its antiviral properties and all this other stuff, I'm like, but there's certain people on the internet, and I live in Florida. We have mosquitoes year round. It never gets cold enough here for those heartworms to die off. And the reason I know we have them, when I first moved to Miami, Tom and I, we'd both worked at this animal shelter in New Mexico, and he started an animal rescue on the streets of Miami. And that's like, he had it going. You have no idea. But every other dog, probably 2 out of 3 dogs that we picked up as stray dogs there were all heartworm positive.
Yeah.
And
well,
I just had a friend call up their dog. They have a gorgeous shepherd, and they weren't giving it, and now she's heartworm positive. And now they're looking at, do we give this poison or that poison, and what do slow kill.
I don't know. Some people have there's a little controversy about the HWF from Amber Naturals. I've had tremendously good success with it over the years. I
know people who got positive on it. So I just, I don't know.
But nothing's
absolute. Yeah.
And you can't just say, oh, I'm going to do this, but you're feeding them, purine kibble, and you're putting all these other toxins, and you're giving them the vaccines and destroying the immune system. Okay, fine. It's got to be a whole package deal. But my thing is, when I have people who live in Maine, in New England, where I come from,
and it's so cold
year round, every freaking month to prevent heartworm, and I say it doesn't prevent anything. Do you understand how this cycle works? And they go, no, the vet said it would prevent it. That's why I wrote a pretty detailed thing about the cycle, how it works.
People need to understand the life cycle and stuff. But
so, and it depending on where you are, if you're in Florida and you've got mosquitoes year round, then you better be doing something more serious. But
when I was in New Mexico at the shelter there, I mean, I would come in, I saw numerous dogs in right-sided heart failure from heartworm. I mean, we would open up the hearts because we're euthanizing them. We had a heart sitting on the thing filled with spaghetti. Literally, there were so many heartworms in that dog, it was filled with spaghetti. So I can't say no, don't give heartworm preventative. But again, up north, they don't need to be giving it when it's below 0 and freezing cold.
Exactly. And the thing is, if you understand the life cycle, so rather than doing poisons, why don't you do a test 2 or even 3 times a year to see where
the microfilaria.
That would be that. to me, that's preferable to putting poison in my dog just in case. I
Now,
don't.
I will say Antec, which is a lab I use, their new price guide is stressing doing the microfilarial test along with the regular heartworm test, which is it's a big turnaround for them. I'm like, oh, isn't this interesting? Yeah. So, but I mean, they're looking at it from a pure profit point of view.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a reason to make more money.
Exactly. But at the same time,
it's a good test to do. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Exactly.
My feeling is you don't deworm unless you know that the dog has worms. Because how do you know what you're trying to deworm for? You don't do I don't know. You don't give an antibiotic unless you know, number one, that they have a bacterial infection and what type, so you know what
it's sensitive. Exactly. Well, and my dog, I live in Florida. We have horrible, I mean, I have clients struggling with ticks and fleas like no tomorrow. And yet I don't have fleas and ticks. I've never had fleas and ticks on my dog. She's on raw food. She's not on any kind of kibble. She's not on any garbage. And I'll use like essential oil sprays and stuff like that if we go to a dog park. And half the time I forget to do that. And I still don't have fleas and ticks.
And I don't have a problem. I've lived in the middle of 300 acres of fields and woods with ponds and streams and God knows what, in Jersey over the years. I've never used anything. I've never have I picked ticks off my dogs? Of course. And then I take my essential oil and I put a little, oil there and say, oh, nothing is 100%. You are not going to prevent 100%. But if you're putting poison on them or in them every single freaking month for your entire lives, you're definitely going to cause problems.
Well, and the new stuff, the Bravecto and the NexGard, I can't tell you the amount of dogs that have come to me with seizures and tremors, and it's causing neurological things that are not responding to the normal drugs we used to use.
This client,
I'm seeing seizures that aren't even, well, for one, some neurologists, they won't even reach for pheno anymore, but they'll give Keppra and the dog will keep seizuring, and they won't even try anything else. They won't try potassium bromide or anything. So I'm like, until we try these drugs, if your dog's cluster seizuring every week, we've got to try something, or they're not going to have a very long lifespan,
Well, they start them so early. This one with the pit bull, with the now 13-week-old puppy, Aussie, at 11 between week 10 and week 11, in this 1 week period, this dog was given rabies, Lyme, lepto, DHCP, bordetella, and Simparica. Okay. 10 to 11 weeks old. Thank you. And crappy kibble. Well, the dog is now eating totally raw, loving it, of course.
Oh my God.
And we got rid of she canceled the appointment she was supposed to, the dog was quote unquote due. I love it when people say,
they do.
So is your dog, I love this. So is your dog up to date on vaccines? Oh, well, he's due for so. I said, due what do you mean due for? Well, the vet said so that's when I started my whole thing. People sit there and look at me like, you've just totally destroyed my whole brain because you're telling me something totally different than the vet said. And I said, well, but I can give you some science and some common sense to back it up. Ask your vet to do the same thing. And they look at you like you're crazy. But what they do.
Well, and then the vets don't want to be questioned. I'm like, if your vet doesn't want to be questioned, then walk out the door. They don't deserve your money.
That's right. I have another client in West Virginia with another 13-week-old puppy who at 13 weeks of age got the same deal, all the vaccines, and was spayed.
All at once. Yep. Just slap it all on there, and then do that.
All these vaccines, anesthesia, and spayed the dog. I mean, can you say,
and probably antibiotics, and probably let's use antibiotics for spay. It should be a sterile surgery. I never used antibiotics for my spays ever, unless it was like a pyometra. But
I don't use it for anything. I mean,
I used to routinely, because I was a shelter vet, I would do pregnancies, I would do pyometras, I would do hermaphroditic dogs where I found male sex organs inside the dog. There was one pit, I barely made my incision, and there was a fountain of pus spraying up to the ceiling. I mean, I did anything and everything that came through there because I was the last chance for that animal. If I didn't do it, there's nobody else around, and the euthanasia room was right down the hall, you know. So I really did a lot of surgeries. But there was a thing on Facebook last night on a vet site of this vet saying, explain to me why $1,600 for a pyometra surgery is expensive. And I'm like, they were like, oh, but it's so difficult and it's so stressful to do a pyometra. And there were all these answers, line after line after line. And they turned off the comments. I was going to say, I would routinely have a dog in front of me, 6-year-old overweight Rottweiler. And God knows what I was going to find when I opened up that abdomen, you know, that it had like 4 litters and was, you know, digging through the fat. And I mean, but where do they, it's like, oh, it's so difficult for me to do a pyometra surgery. You're a surgeon. What?
So if it's that difficult, you're in the wrong profession.
Yes, then don't do surgery. But my God.
I know, and I hear this, you know, the big thing lately, and I'm not insensitive to this. I'm really not. But if I hear one more veterinarian or people say, oh my God, vets, you know, the suicide rate is so bad because vets are so mistreated and they have such a terrible life and blah, blah, blah. I'm going like, well, if you were doing the right thing, you would probably not have guilt, which would help. And you would have people who are really happy
Norma,
with it. Makes me crazy.
I want to take those vets out there by the hand, and I want to go out to the Navajo Indian Reservation where I did an externship, and I want to take them to Espanola, New Mexico, and have them work beside me for just a week.
Yeah.
I would stand at that surgery table and do 30 surgeries a day, but it was because I wanted to learn how to do surgery, and I was there for those animals, again, because there was nobody else to help those animals, and that's why I was there. I got up every morning, we stopped and got our breakfast burrito, and we headed into that shelter. You know, I walked around and I put red X's on the chart on the kennels I had to put red X's on. We went in and put feral puppies to sleep. We would be covered in blood and guts and maggots, and we'd have the fighting pit bull. I had the guy from oh my God, he was like Cheech and Chong. He had the bandana down around his ears, and he came in. His dog had gotten out. It was like the 10th time his championship fighting dog had gotten out, and eventually the shelter manager had been the one to decide to put the dog to sleep. It was so beat up and gnarly and old and arthritic, and so he came charging into that shelter. He's like, you guys picked up my dog again, blah, 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 blah. And I'd had it at this point in time. I looked at him. I'm like, yeah, we picked up your dog again. He's like, where's my dog? I'm like, I'm going to show you where your dog is. Follow me. I don't know what got into me. And there were guides looking out for me. I walked him back to the chest freezer, and I flipped that door up, and his dog was laying on the top of that pile of dogs in that freezer. And I've never, I think I just he needed to like hit to the heart, because he stepped back, he turned pale, and he looked at me and he was like, and he turned around really quietly and he walked out. We didn't hear a word from him. But it was that type of I was very lucky. He could have pulled the knife out on me right then and there, and I wouldn't be here anymore. You know, but it was just that thing of like, he needs to know what his actions or lack of actions and consequences were for this animal. You know, it was that point. But yeah, so these vets, I'm sorry, I didn't know. We worked with, I improvised on what I had there. I took a broom closet and we turned into a surgery facility, just because we were like, I was like, wow, I can do all these surgeries. They're on unowned animals and I'm helping. You know, I don't need some fancy schmancy this or that to treat an animal.
You do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. You do it the best that you can, and then you go on to the next one, and you don't feel sorry for yourself. I mean, I'm sorry, but the gift of being able to help save a life or make a life better, to me, that's
all the payment I need.
That's, you know, granted, we need some financial assistance, because We have to pay the mortgage, we have to buy the food, yada, yada. But we don't need to live. I tell people, they say, when I say, I'll be there for 4 hours, I say, how much are you? Well, you know, I'm only going to charge you for 2 hours. Oh, you sure? And I said, look, I need to make money and I need to pay the mortgage, but you don't need to pay the whole mortgage. Okay. I spent a lot of time because I felt it was necessary. I told you it would be 2 hours. I spent nearly 4 hours with you. Yes, but you gave us such good information. Help. I said, yes, but that was my choice. I don't expect you to pay. And sometimes people say, no, I want to pay you. And if they insist.
Exactly. Well, sometimes they do.
But I always say, no, you know, I made that choice. When I'm doing a phone consultation and we get off onto things that aren't specifically related to the matter at hand, it's interesting. It may be important, but I don't charge them for that time. Because
I don't either. I don't either.
The way it is.
I had a woman, I had a client last week. I did a phone consult with her, and she has this sweet golden retriever that's got a tumor and it's on it right underneath its nose. And they were like, oh, there's nothing to do, just put the dog to sleep, blah 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 blah. I was like, listen, let's try this. You know, I got on with her. I charged her what I charged her, and she was like, the next day she wrote me back. She was like, Dr. Josie, thank you so much, because every other holistic vet out there doing consults, I contacted them and they were all out of my price range, and you gave me really good information. And again, it was helping that dog. And I didn't think, oh, I need to not charge her as much as others, but I felt I charged her a fair fee for what I was able at my time. You know, I was fair.
And I've had people call me and say, you know, well,
like,
you know, I call this holistic vet, and I'm sorry, I have a problem with, well, again, holistic, you know, it's holistic can be anything. I mean, and that
can be absolutely
it can
anything.
be everything, but in fact, it can be anything. And so I told people, but they said, one woman called me, she said, well, I called this vet and I just couldn't afford it. She wanted $300 for a 45-minute consult. And I said, huh?
Yes. $300 to $400 for a 45-minute consult.
Well, and there was this crazy woman, this baby, who wanted to $500 to sit for 2 hours and watch the movie, whatever. You know, it's crazy. And I say, if my focus was money, I'd probably have a lot more of it. But I've got.
But maybe we should like team up. I've been working on the money issue a lot, and part of my thing that helped me turn it around, because I still charge fairly, but is to think like, okay, all these, there's money is neutral, and all these big pharmaceutical companies, if people are taking money in and doing bad things with it, you can also take money in and do really, really good things with it.
Exactly.
And well, if I have more money, if I have money to support me and I'm not worried about money, and I have money coming in and money coming in from different people, then I can give more out, you know.
And
that's how I've thought about it.
Exactly. And my focus the last few weeks, I've been really working on this thing, like, I don't ever want to ask for, I don't want something given to me. What I'm asking is for the opportunity to work. I need to work about another 10 hours a week paid time. That's it, 10 hours a week added to what I do for payment, not just because I do a lot of time for nothing. Yeah. That's all I'm asking for, universe. This is not too much to ask, you know? But one of the things is that I don't have, my website has, I had a website, GoDaddy annihilated it. And I didn't realize then, they told me it couldn't be recreated. I mean, they couldn't be retrieved, they'd have to recreate it. And at the time, I just couldn't. There were a whole lot of reasons. And
websites are not the easiest thing in the world to build and get up there and deal with. They are.
But what I recently discovered is there's this thing called the Wayback Machine, for real. You go online, the Wayback Machine, every website that's ever been anywhere is there. I found all the information for my website. So now next week, I'm going to make some time to sit down and try to recreate my website. Because the guy who's going to do it for me through Vengeance is so busy getting everything else done that it may be another 6 months before Patrick gets it. I'm going to do it myself.
I think this is no accident that we talked today, because I'm with this Mighty Network thing, I'm revamping it. And the way it's set up is It's a totally separate it's a totally separate platform. So it has an activity feed, which is like a news feed like Facebook. So people can post pictures, people can have discussions back and forth. Members come in and they can set up their individual profiles with their picture and everything else. But then it has this main entrance area. Then what you can do is you can build courses and groups off of that that you can charge for. So
Well,
my idea for this, because I took one group of people, 18 people last year, and we did a journey through the seasons and through the 5 elements of Chinese medicine, because I'm a big 5-element practitioner.
yeah,
and I had them do vibrational medicine, like a stone and flower essence tincture, elixir that we all took together. And then we went through this whole journey. But what I wanted to make into this platform is like a village. So that, an animal communicator is one of the people I wanted to have on there. Right now I have like an Anubis circle, I call it, for a memorial site for people to put up grieving and death and dying stuff. I have another circle on, I want to do like a book club. We have the podcast that's going to be on there, and then sharing it out. But it would be, you could, and this is how I've been working it out. You could potentially come on there, advertise, do like, I had a astrologer come on, and what she did for the group is do like one community post for the group, like do like a community reading or talk about something you do as a community offering. So then that'll add to the whole feed. And then you could put up your information if they wanted to contact you individually for readings, or if you wanted to do a course like over Zoom and set it up, and then you could charge for the course. And the only thing I would ask is, I mean, I have overhead for paying for the thing and stuff, for like a small percentage back into the overall Mighty Network to support it.
Well, if everybody isn't bringing something to the picnic and taking something home from the picnic, it's not really.
Exactly. But how I've really seen it is wanting to do it like a village, and even have human practitioners come in. I'm going to have like Rita Hogan on as a podcast. She's going to do a podcast on herbs. I have Nanda Sykes, who does astrology, and she's a really awesome astrology starting out. And so she'll do astrology posts. I mean, I'm just opening up wide up to the unicorns and the dragons and all of it, because it's separate off of the madness of Facebook, and it's all our property. It's not own anything we post on there, like, and we could always have an agreement, like if you put a course up there, that will be your property, like nobody can.
Well, that's good. I mean,
so whatever,
so everybody feels protected enough so that they can be open and share, because it's still, they're not ownership.
Yes. Because that's the other thing. I mean, I have joined up with different people who wanted to work with me and everything else, and I've gotten so screwed over so many times. Or it's just fallen apart by like the psychos, because they jump off the cliff into
I've actually had more than once. I've had people call me, and the words they use, I mean, that just instantly I knew it. But this one woman, she read about me, she heard about me, and she said, "Oh, it's great." She's, "I want to learn everything you do. I want to come and shadow you." What she really wanted was, she wanted to come and pick my brain and learn every single thing that I knew. She didn't want to pay me anything. She wanted me to teach her everything and let her come to clients with me and learn, but she didn't want to pay me anything. She wanted to shadow me. And like, yeah, right. It's like years ago, before Sonia Fitzpatrick did her communication thing on the Animal Planet. Somebody from Animal Planet contacted me before, prior to that, and asked. I was the first one they offered that to, which shocked the crap out of me. I don't even know how they knew about me, but it shocked me. But they said, "Okay, well, this is what we would do, blah, blah, blah." And then we would go with you to your client's home, and then we would film, the whole session. But we would want to make sure that it was a really good session, and I said, "Well, wait a minute, I can't
predict.
I don't know what's going to come up." They said, "But what I do know is that when I communicate with an animal, I get a lot of very personal information about, the people, the whole, I get really personal stuff. Said, I'm not going to have you come into somebody's home
Yeah.
and start filming that. No, if I do something and it's a really interesting thing, it's a great story, we could recreate that. And no, they wanted to go. So I said, I'm not your girl. So they got Sonia to do it. And my clients would call me like the morning after. She would be on, it was like every Wednesday evening, whatever. I'd have clients call and say, oh my God, do you know what Sonia said about this? She talked to a dog and said this. And she said, you never would have said anything like that. That doesn't even make sense. And I go, okay, look, I'm not there. But it's like, you can't do crap just to make money and just, I mean, for sensationalism. I just I can't do it.
I can't do it either.
If I had to live on, if I had to live on bean sprouts and water for the rest of my life, as long as I could feed my animals, I wouldn't do it.
It's just like even trying to, I'm trying to make the landing page and the marketing material, and I can't bullshit. Like if it's not something that is coming from here, I can't put it down. I can't write it, it's not gonna happen.
I feel exactly the same way. It's got to be true, it's got to be honest, it's got to be real, it's got to be ethical. And if it isn't, I am not your girl. If I starve to death, I'm still not your girl.
Well, I think we know like the spiritual price that you end up paying for that. We probably paid it somewhere along the line.
Because my spiritual teacher was famous for saying, she said, the wheels of karmic justice may grind very slowly, but they grind very surely. They will always get you. And I know I've done enough, past life exploration for a specific purpose. I'm not a big one. Oh, I want to know about this, that, whatever. It was for specific purposes that I did. It's like, so my ex-husband, this was the 5th lifetime I was with him, and he either killed me or had me killed in every one of them. No wonder I want to get away from him.
I had one of those.
Well, actually, only 4 times. Twice he killed me, twice he had me killed, and once in a Native American life, I actually committed suicide because I couldn't stand the torture anymore. And so I knew I had karmic debt to pay for that because I took my own life. That's like the biggest sin going. And so this was my opportunity to be able to end it with him the right way. And I did it the right way this time. And now I don't ever have to do it. Yay! Liberation is a wonderful thing. But, this is a world that, you and I, as I say, I am in this world, but I am not of this world. And and that's exactly how I feel. I live here. I do everything I can do. I know I have a purpose here. I have a job. I do it to the best of my ability. Sometimes I, do better than other days, but I know that there is so much more. And I'm not just worried about, what happens today on Sunday. I'm worried about how many lifetimes in the future that I don't want to have to go through because
and my God, where we are at right now in the world is something else again. I just sit back. It's weird because Tom, the firefighter paramedic who works with me, he lives with me. He started preparing for this 5 years ago. I was like, oh, you're crazy. And I was like, okay, if he wants to store up toilet paper, that's what I said. If he wants to store toilet paper and he wants to can food, then we can store that, and then we'll always have food to eat.
Well, you will laugh.
He pegged the whole thing, and we looked at each other and we were like, we never thought it would be something like this that happened.
Well, I didn't start 5 years ago, but about a year
my God.
I have about a year's supply of things like toilet paper, toothpaste, shampoo. I have essential oils. I have all that, but I also have right now currently 22 pounds of organic coffee beans.
You can't be without the coffee.
15 pounds of raw honey. I've got 21-pound jars of organic almond and peanut butters. I have enough honey. If you need beans and rice, I'm your girl.
We've got a whole shelf of beans and rice. We've been starting to eat the rice because I don't want it to go bad. But it's all food we'll eat anyways.
Right.
You know?
Well, exactly.
But,
So I said, what's the worst that will happen? You know, we're crazy and nothing bad's going to happen. I just don't have to go food shopping for a year. But
exactly.
I have a friend who works at a bakery and does the big, like the 2 and 5 gallon plastic buckets of things like frosting. Oh, I read the label and I almost had a heart attack. But
fructose corn syrup.
But they're all oh God, it's disgusting. But they're all food grade, you know, buckets with really tight fitting lids. So here's what you do with your
those buckets are great for storage. Yeah.
So the dried beans and rice, whatnot, I keep them in their individual packages. I put them in there and then I sprinkle diatomaceous earth over it. So before I clean them, so no bugs and no moisture.
The diatomaceous earth. That's key. That's key.
I use diatomaceous.
Cool.
The tea that I use also has bentonite clay already mixed with it, and I use that.
Oh, okay.
My dog and cats get it every day, just as part of the meal. Just it was sort of a general detox, whatever. I use it for everything, and I thought, well, I want to store this stuff, and these are tight fitting.
Great idea. Yeah.
So moisture and bugs are not a problem.
No, that's great. Yeah.
My little tip. So I discovered, though, I counted up, I've got to get some stuff, some things I can put in the attic and some things I can, it'll get a little too warm in the summer, so I'll put in my walk-in closet. But I now have 17 of these buckets full of stuff. Like
we have a small, we took the 3rd bedroom and it's just baker's racks of shelves filled with food. But you know what? It's great because if I don't want to go to the grocery store, I don't have to go to the grocery store.
And it's funny because of these Mennonite markets. I mean,
that's awesome.
Okay, so for instance, I got my 5-pound bag of Starbucks coffee beans, 5-pound bag. $1.99.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I got my 26-ounce jar of raw honey, $1.99. My 22-ounce bottles of pink and black Himalayan salt, both $2.99 for 22 ounces of coarse pink Himalayan salt. I buy these whenever they have them.
At the Amish market?
Then I had, this is the Mennonite market. They had a while ago, they had canned salmon, wild-caught canned salmon, 4-pound cans of wild-caught salmon for $4.99. I bought everyone. They had about 5 cases of everyone they had.
Wow. Just for dog and cat food. I mean,
the dogs, yes, absolutely.
Oh my God.
So
wow.
I love that.
Wow.
So I stock, when they have stuff like that, I stock up.
Yeah, that's what we've been doing too. If we see stuff on sale, it's like, you know, and then he's canning. But my grandmother used to can chicken and had the cellar underneath the ranch house. I grew up with that. She grew her food, you know.
I don't know that I'm going to do a lot of canning, but what I am doing is
it's a lot of work.
I'm doing a lot of dehydrating. I can get my my beef liver for 50 cents a pound. So I got 2 or 3 whole livers from him, and
so you have a dehydrator?
No, but I have in my little 260-year-old house. When I bought this house, it was the most amazing thing because it's beautiful, classic. I mean, it's a historical building. It's wonderful, and they had upgraded some of the stuff, but they kept everything, you know, really classic, historic. But in the kitchen, there was this alcove, and that alcove is now filled. It's about 4.5 feet wide, and it is now filled with my 4-foot wide long Genair stainless steel gas range.
Nice.
With with a big oven and then a smaller oven.
Nice.
6 burners, the whole bit. I mean, it's amazing. And that sits right next to the fireplace. So it's like the best of both worlds. But that you can dehydrate very easily.
In there. Yeah.
You know, you set it to about 150 degrees, whatever, and you just let it go. So why not? And it's a gas range. I mean, it's less expensive than using electric, and I like the idea better.
I wish we could have a gas range. We don't have gas here. It's really real drag.
I love it. I have another Mennonite butcher that I can go to again. I went to him last year. I took 3 of these 5-gallon buckets, and he filled them with liver, kidney, trachea, and lung.
Wow.
He charged me $15 for the whole thing. It took
Oh
me
my
hours and hours and days to
God.
get everything prepared. But but it's amazing. So here, my dog gets, dried trachea and
Yeah.
kidney and liver for treats. He thinks he's
Oh,
going
that's
to
awesome. And you know how much they're charging for that stuff, like in pet store?
Well, first of all, so you get this little bag and it's like $8, but that little bag is like 2 ounces, so you multiply that times 8 to get to a pound, and you're paying $65 $60 a pound for this stuff. I pay 50 cents a pound for liver, so then you dehydrate it, so maybe you get, let's say you're getting half of that or less, so it costs me $1 a pound. Oh gosh, and I have to slice, stick it in the oven.
Exactly.
I don't
Well,
know. I have to ask you a very important question.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Bug.
Okay, thank you.
But it's in German, it's Boig. In German, it's pronounced Boig. But
since I'm half German, I'll have to figure out how.
Yeah, the EU is Oi in German, but Americans could never get that. So it kind of went through. My family immigrated and landed in the Dakotas, and they were all cattle ranchers up there. And then they changed their name from Boig to Big. Like if you watch Yellowstone, that movie, that show Yellowstone, that's my family. I didn't even know about that series. And then somebody told me about it and I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to watch it.
I just learned about it recently. I've seen a couple of
without the money. But my grandfather, they immigrated over, and then my grandfather had a ranch. He raised horses for the cavalry up in the Dakotas.
Well, this is why okay.
Yeah, no, it was my family had a big horse history, and I have like a lot of past life stuff with horses, but I have such a strong like spiritual thing with horses. I couldn't go into being an equine vet. I would be down in the horse barn, and I just could not. I couldn't see how they were treating these animals. I just couldn't take it. No, the horse world is like a whole nother.
Oh, please! I started out with Arabians, and what they do to them is just horrible.
Yeah.
But my German grandfather came. When he came, he ended up at Ellis Island. He had an apartment in New York, Manhattan, but he was a professor of metallurgy at Stevens Institute in Hoboken, New Jersey. He had the ripe old age at 20. He was an amazing guy, but then he decided he would had enough. That's
like alchemy. That's like alchemy, and I mean,
he decided he had enough of that after he moved to Maine and bought he bought a farm. He became a dairy farmer.
Oh, wow.
And he became a dairy farmer who actually did brain surgery on one of his cows one day successfully. Okay, that's just because, I mean, my grandmother told me that story when I was a kid, and I just cracked up. It was so much like my grandfather. But he was, there was never a worry about how to pronounce that. He was Ferdinand Wilhelm Glenk. Doesn't get more German than that. But
my grandfather's name was Ferdinand. It was actually Alfred Ferdinand Boig. Alfred Ferdinand Boig.
Yeah, it's amazing. But it's again similar. He came. Yours came and went into the horses. Mine came and went into the cattle. But my mother grew up with. She always had horses. She always was a horse person. Yeah. It's just well, we come from good stock with good values, I think, and that makes a difference.
Yeah, and tough people, those people. Well, I remember my grandfather, he broke his leg once, and he had these old, I think they were like his World War I leather cowboy boots that laced up. he would be like, just give me another shot of whiskey. He soaked that leather in water and he laced those boots up.
Oh God!
And he still went, I'm like, how do they thought of pain differently? Nobody in this day and age could deal with that. What they did.
It was amazing. And then my other grandfather came from Lebanon. He came here with older siblings when he was only 9 years old, and he became well. He did a lot of things. He owned a lot. He ended up buying a lot of rental buildings and apartment buildings. But he was the little neighborhood store, and he was the neighborhood butcher. So I learned a lot about how to butcher
Yeah.
what was good. So yeah, and
Wow,
they all had
interesting.
farms and they all grew their own food and I mean, that's in my blood. And that's, if I would
Yeah.
love to have a little more space so I could, and a little more time so I could
So
do
do
more
I.
of it. But, you know, I do the best I can. And we've had such crazy weather here this spring. It's like last week we had 2 back-to-back 80-degree days, and last night it was down into the high 30s again. And I'm like, I said, my poor horse doesn't know whether to grow a coat, shed, or buy a bikini. I swear to God,
Well,
she's
here everybody's waiting for their pools to warm up because it'll get really hot and we're all dreading the humidity coming in, and then it'll drop down and get cold again.
yeah,
So it's the
well,
same thing here. Like,
well, that's
very
because we're all victims of what the hell they're putting in the
Yeah.
atmosphere, the
Oh, yeah.
chemicals, cloud seeding and all that crap, and God knows what else. We will never have a normal climate ever again.
No.
But we can all, you know, be forced to buy electric cars and, you know, use solar power and all that's. I saw somebody posted something that was the perfect thing. It was, the irony was the solar wind, the solar turbine with a major oil leak. Okay, there you go.
Well, and it's like, where do people think they get the electricity from? Where does the electricity come from? Are they pulling it from the lightning out of the sky?
And solar and electric are actually some of the dirtiest energy out there. And what do you do with all of these turbines when they and these batteries, when they die, which they will, they're not biodegradable. What the hell are you going to do with them?
Those batteries are so toxic in the Teslas. I know, it's bizarre. I don't know.
It's all part of the thing that really, I try not to think about it because it would really make me crazy. It would keep me up at night. Is not so much what all the craziness is happening. Crazy, it is crazy, but at the very pinnacle of that craziness are actually supposedly human beings who, it's the demented, twisted mind that conceives of this that really
that are in power, that are in places of power. But you know what? That's why I go back to the earth, and I go back to the trees, and I go back to my live oak forest, and I'm like, this is what supports us, people. This is what gives us our oxygen. If we would not be alive without these trees and these plants and the food and the air, these people that are just madness doing this and doing that, you know, it's like Fauci needs to grow horns out of his head. I think he's like Mengele reborn.
Well, I tell you what, some of the best wisdom I have ever heard, I have heard from trees on several different occasions. And I love trees. They're amazing. And when I really need to really get totally grounded and rebalanced, I go and do an energy exchange with a tree. It's the most amazing thing ever. And it's just 5 minutes and it's transformative. It's like, I teach people. I've a friend of mine has teenage kid. Well, they're all getting a little older now, aren't we all? But from the time these kids were like 9 or 10 and on up, there were 5 of them, and I would teach them about crystals and how to clear their own energy, clear and focus and balance themselves. And then one night we did a walking tour of their property, and I had them each find a tree that they really resonated with and got how to do an exchange. And, I mean, who the hell teaches kids that?
That's what it's all about. No, that's what it's all about. I had a whole tree meditation in my group and reverence, you know. But I went out. Actually, I found this as part of this group I'm in, and now she was talking about how the major sacred sites, the geomancy sites, like Stonehenge and the pyramids and everything, they've had so many jackass people not in their integrity. They're supposedly doing ceremony on those sites that they're really in trouble right now, and along with everything else that's going on. So she wanted all of us are going out and finding smaller local sites. And wouldn't you know, it hit me, there's a live oak park near me, and I'm like, there's a mound in the middle of it. When I first saw it 2 years ago, I'm like, what is this mound doing here? And there's nothing growing. There's oak trees around the base. There's nothing on top. And there's a single Dade County pine tree growing right out of the top of this mound, reaching for the heavens, like an antenna. And then I found out, I put all these pieces together because I went out there and I sat with the mound the other day, and then all the information started flooding in. And this seminal Miccosukee spiritual leader, the Miccosukee band, his name was Sam Jones, like the white name given to him. He would do ceremony there to prepare the soldiers for battle when they were fighting for this land. And it was also, that forest was a sanctuary where all the children and women would come and hide. And they never found them there. There's a statue of him they put up, and they credit he put up such a fierce resistance and he never surrendered. And they credit him with the fact that there's still Seminoles even living in Florida today, because they wanted to move them all out. And that's where this mound is. And I just connected with like 2 days ago. So it's like all this stuff flooding in. Yeah. And the trees, but you know, trees, for years now, I'll get this message from them. I'm like, if I'm going to take sides in whatever battle's going on, I'm going to take whatever side the trees are on. I don't care what anybody else is doing. I will stick with those trees.
Absolutely. No, it's amazing. I'm fortunate, the area that I live in. I mean, we've got the farm where my horse is. It's a small, it's 21 acres, and it's a small, there are not a lot of horses there. They're probably
that's nice.
About 12 horses on the property. And but my horse is in a backfield. It's about a
nice
third of a mile from the barn. Actually, it's all on the property, and it's totally surrounded by trees. I can walk out of her pasture and walk onto the trail. It's like 34 miles of trail around this man-made lake.
Awesome.
Trees everywhere. Now, I haven't ridden. She's being saddle trained starting next month. She contracted lepto and lost her vision totally. Yeah, because before she came to me at the age of 4. She was in a big show barn in Massachusetts. She was bred to Grand Prix dressage. She's bred to the hilt. Her grandsire was voted horse of the century in Germany. Her Hanoverian.
Oh boy! Wow.
She was bred to death. The woman who had her was afraid of her, and had her for sale for $25,000, which was a bargain for the breeding. But she was totally, she wasn't handled.
Out of control.
And she was afraid of everything. The horse was afraid of everything. And she was
when
17.
They're like so high strung like that too, or they're just like.
And she's 17-1, so she's a big girl. And so I ended up, this woman was a friend of my very good friend. One thing led to another. I ended up buying the horse for $1 to make it a legal sale, and she came to live with me. But unfortunately, I didn't realize she had been so over vaccinated that, although she appeared to be healthy, but when she was exposed to the lepto, you know,
she couldn't handle it.
Couldn't handle it. And then we kept her with acupuncture.
So sad.
I kept her vision for almost 2 years, but gradually she lost the vision in one eye, and then the other eye. But we've talked about this, and Promise and I have talked about, you know, what this is all about, and you know, and she does beautifully. And I now have a young client who is going to help me start saddle training. I've never had anyone start a horse for me, but I've never been 74 with 2 new knees, 2 new shoulders, and a new hip. So
well, and she's blind too. That's a whole nother.
Yeah. So I just can't take a chance on breaking a replacement joint. I just can't. I'm 74. I don't need to do that. And
it's not worth it. No, Norma, that's not worth it.
And it's beautiful. She wants to come do my communications workshop. And so we're bartering. She's going to come do the workshop.
Cool.
And in return, she'll give me a couple of initial sessions with my horse. I only need, I said, I just need somebody on her back 2, 3, maybe 4 times to get her used to it so she understands. And then I'm fine from there on. But so that just worked out perfectly. So,
that's cool.
You know, but I go out there and I sit. Sometimes I just sit. Her pasture totally surrounded by these huge forests.
I can just see it. Wow.
Sit there with her in the middle of the field, and while she's grazing and whatnot, and I commune with the trees and whatnot. It's like, it's my
magic.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah. So nature, you know, Mother Nature knew what the heck she was doing.
Yes. Definitely. Well, this has been so awesome. I think, where are we at, Amrys? Amrys is like
no, I muted myself because it's raining here with thunder, and my dog and my
Oh,
animals are a bit
oh,
so my dog's been barking actually quite a fair bit, and she was like, but she settled down now, so I'm just,
cool,
so I've been really
cool.
quiet, but I've really enjoyed this conversation because I am a little amoeba, okay, and I am learning from the masters. One thing I am so grateful. I think the universe really heard my prayers and my request to get mentors to learn from, because this is
Mm,
something that I mean, Dr. Josie knows that, like I'm trying to open my mind more, to be more conscious, to because this is a physical world, but we live in a duality world, and I'm trying to really, become a more conscious caregiver, not just in the physical but the spiritual side as well. And the reverence community has been such a blessing for me because she has taught me and opened my eyes to many things that I live in Singapore, which is on the other side of the world, and it's a
but
very
I have to say one thing. This girl here lives in Singapore on like the 64th floor of some big high rise.
no
She
20th.
20th. Okay. She created her own little ecosystem on her balcony. She's growing microgreens now. She's got like lizards coming in. She's got birds coming in.
Oh,
She's done,
wonderful.
yeah, she's done like miracles with it.
Yeah,
And
but I'm
then,
still terrible with the technology because, she told me like I can post, but I'm like, okay, I'm still trying to figure out how to post certain stuff on the live show.
Oh, don't feel bad, sweetie. Technology and long ago,
I'm gonna,
technology and I agreed not
You
to
know,
get along.
ever since I started my this quest of mine to really, like, go beyond the physical, and the last few months my tech stuff has been going on blitz.
oh,
It's been like really, not really happy with me, or I'm not really happy with it. I don't know what's going on, but I think it's a growth spurt for me at the moment, But today's conversation is something that I'm so grateful that to be the little fly on the wall to listen in, because like I'm absorbing so much, and like I've got some questions that I think Norma, if it's possible, I actually would like to interview you again, like separately, and just start from, like me as the amoeba, and then, from a beginner pet parent kind of thing, because I live in Singapore and in Southeast Asia, where I would say we are very Western influenced, and when I mean Western, I mean big pharma.
Right.
So when you're talking about GABA and all that, I hear you, because I get doctors and they tell me like, oh, the drugs that their animals are on, and I'm like wincing away, because even though I don't have the kind of experience and knowledge that the both of you have, but instinctively I know it's there's a disconnect here. It doesn't make sense, and I have to say that I'm an animal rescuer. I do rescue work over here. I do TNR, but I try to avoid the conventional vets. I only use them when I really have to, like diagnostics, but everything else I try within my budget, because I don't print money. I wish I did, but I try to do it with nutrition, with whatever that I can afford within my budget, and as it is, I already see that, the animals that come under our care, their lifespan, the quality of their lifespan improves. Our vet bills actually go down, you know, and it's just
mhm.
really simple, like just don't feed kibble. You
That's
know,
number one.
don't feed kibble. I mean, we
Yeah.
like with our community cats. I mean, like because of budget, we do feed a mix, because I mean, cats are cats. They eat all sorts of stuff outside. So, the wet canned food, we can't get away with it, so we just mix it. We make our own bone broth. We put in some raw eggs. We put some like chlorella, spirulina inside. Whatever. Some probiotics, whatever I can afford. I just throw it in whenever, and if we can, and like my microgreens, those cats that like it, they can
That's
have it.
awesome. That's awesome.
So I do my own mini version of like zoo pharmaconoxy, like I just offer it to them. So those who really like it, they take it, and then I sort of look at them like, okay, you ate a bit of this, then you threw up because you're not feeling well. Is there something, so it's I'm learning. And when I listen to Dr. Josie and to you tonight, I'm just like wow, it's like I am so blessed to be in the presence of two masters and the master class that I've had. Look, seriously, because I mean like I can't get this over here in Singapore. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. I mean, like when you were talking about like animal communications and like how people like have courses and like I have friends who tell me, oh, they went for a weekend course and now they're animal communicators, and I'm like, okay. I mean, the thing is, I don't not believe it. I believe in it. It's just that, not trying to be rude, but maybe you understand what I mean. It's like,
Well, a weekend course and now you're like master communicator.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's you have to have experience, and I'm not one. I don't. I'm a bit dense. I'm quite thick. I'm a bit dyslexic sometimes. But I look at as a rescuer, I look at my animals, and over time with experience, you sort of get a vibe,
Sure.
and you sort of like figure out like, okay, and I've always told my animals like, I give you a choice. Do you want to go naturally or do you need to be assisted? And I remember there was one cat that was at the vet because it wasn't feeling well, and I said, look, we're running out of money because we're on a budget. I said, I can't keep you at the clinic too long, but I said, you have a choice. Either you walk out today, show me that you can walk out today, or I will have to seriously consider putting you to sleep, because my
Yeah.
my money is running out. And guess what? The cat heard me, got up, and he walked from like that, and the vet was like saying, oh no, this is we might have to fuss it. Okay, let me just have this conversation. And my friends were horrified because oh my god, Amrys, you're such a bitch, how can you say those things? And I'm like, well, the thing is, I mean, like, I don't think they'll be offended. You just have to be a straight shooter. That's what I
Yeah.
love about animals. They don't bullshit. They love you. They don't. Or it's very clear. That's for me, the little amoeba.
So they said that you were a bitch, like that was a bad thing. That is
Yeah.
not a bad thing.
Yeah, because the way I
Own
said
your
it,
inner bitch.
yeah, because the way I said it to the cat, it's like, if you don't walk on your own, I have no choice but to put you down.
But you gave
Animals want us to be honest with them, and because they know I think oftentimes they put themselves in positions where it forces us to be open and to be honest and to really think deeper. Not the animal, they instinctively know they can go or they cannot go. I mean, they know, and they know what's going on with us, but they will put themselves in situations where they're in danger or they're not well or whatever, to force us to come into our own at a better level. I'm totally convinced.
Yeah.
they're bodhisattvas in that way. I
Yeah.
mean, I swear they're bodhisattvas
Yeah,
in that way. Like even
I always Yeah,
Yeah.
I tell everyone, especially my doctors, I say I honestly believe that all the animals that come into our life, they're angels sent from heaven to guide us. They're giving us, opportunities to learn. Even the ones that are so injured and dying, and we feel like crap because, we're human, we have feelings, but it's to help us grow, to become better, and I don't know, for me, it's to become more, to become more, to see beyond this, and
and,
when I was listening to the both of you talk, about how, about the reincarnation, about the animals coming back. And I chuckled, I laughed, like, oh my God, I'm dying for my babies to come back to me, you know. Um, and like I was like, okay, I'm not like Norma, and I don't have these conversation voices in my head, but hey, hit me up, it's like you have my permission, just come back whenever you're ready. I'm here, you know. Maybe that's why I've got 12 cats and one dog right now.
I'm sure. I'm sure that you will find.
Amazing.
I'm sure that there are animals who are with you now who have been with you in other bodies. Absolutely. There's no
Yeah,
question
yeah.
about
I believe in fate because like a lot of my refuge, they also like, aren't you in a hurry? Shouldn't you quickly like rehome the animals? Because it's like with a lot of some rescues, it's like a really fast exchange. You rescue them, fix them up, get them out, vaccinate, then throw them out, get the new batch in, that kind of thing. But I'm a slightly different kind of rescuer where I will do what I can for the animal. And I believe in, you gotta call it fate or timing, but they're here for a reason with me. And if they're meant to go with someone else, they will go with someone else, you know. So I let people know, like, okay, you want to take them. And because I'm a raw feeder, so
Mm.
it's not, well, now there's more people interested in that, but it's still new here. It's still very new here. I mean, like, I still get things like, oh, I don't want to feed raw to my dog because my dog will become ferocious. And I'm like, well, I mean, well, my dog's a mongrel, and yeah, she can be quite a bitch, but she's really a chicken. She's more scared of the thunder than my cats, you know. But it's still a lot of education over here in this part of the world. So when I got the chance, I mean, like, seriously, the universe, when I got introduced to Dr. Josie the first time, I was like, oh my God, I felt something pulling me to her, and tonight, to
Yeah.
be able to meet you, Norma, I just feel that the universe has blessed me like twice over again, to meet you. And I'm like, I would, if you're open to it, I would really like to interview again, like just one on one,
I
and
would
and
love
get your
to.
story, and to just share your story, because this part of the world, we are so behind in terms of integrative or holistic, whatever you want to call it, right? It's still not quite there yet. I mean, like, every single clinic I've been to, it's all kibble ABC, all the alphabet
Amrys,
diets on every single shelf.
Amrys,
And they'll tell me, like, come back for an annual vaccination, and they tell all my, like, all my adopters they have to do it, or they're, and I said, look, I was there, I was you years back when I first started out. I thought I was being a good pet parent because I didn't know better until I screwed up my very first kitten when I had her. For the first 5 years, she was given annual vaccination because I thought I was doing right by her, but she got so sick. She was on prescription diet, and
mm,
I'm so thankful that she's going to be 14 years old in May this year. But
Yay.
and she's finally
yay.
on
Yeah.
Raw. She's finally on Raw, but she's not 100% because of the damage I did to her. But she looks so good for her age
Mm.
compared to a lot of other cats her age. My friends who are kibble fat or have all sorts of really bad stuff going on. And it's because I fucked up so many times because I didn't know. That's when I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning, I'm learning. And to
But
learn from
we
you guys, it's a huge gift. So
But we're
but
thank
we
kind of
you.
rare. We're rare over here in the United States too, Amrys. Like you've interviewed. She has a great show where she's interviewed so many amazing people and told their stories. But here, it's hard to find people. Even so, we're spread out pretty thin, right?
You're spread out, but at least
Norma. I
you're in
mean,
the United States of America. Well, maybe
we
not so
have to keep
united
it.
now, but you're on the same continent.
We have to. We may end up fighting for our constitution here pretty soon, but you know.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's really, to be able to have this opportunity to listen and to learn from from ladies with so much experience, you know, it's a real honor, honestly, and I feel really, really blessed to be in the presence of both of you. I mean, like, I have friends who tell me, like, they think I'm crazy that I have this podcast because, I mean, you asked Dr. Josie because it's like 3 quarter past 3 in the morning over here. Okay. You know, I do this for the love, you know, because I want to learn. I want to learn, you know, and I want to meet and just listen to all the stories that all of you have. And to me, that is an education that, you know, money school can't buy. I mean, like conventional school cannot buy, you know.
That's
So
kind of
this is
what
good.
I was talking about, of people reaching out. If you want
Mm,
something and you reach out, you can get it, you know, but there's not a lot
yeah,
of people who do that. You're doing that
yeah.
majorly.
So
And you know, when you know better, you do better. That's the thing.
yeah.
I tell people,
Yeah.
you may not be interested in all the information I have to give you, but you cannot make the best decisions unless you have the most good information to choose from.
Mm,
I mean, if you
mm,
have only limited information, that's not really a choice. So
mm.
that's what I do. I put it out there. You know, I don't, contrary to what some people think, I do not beat people up if they don't do what I say. I'm tempted, but I don't.
No, I don't either. It's like I'll meet people where they are, and even if it's like little baby steps. I've had people who had no idea any of this, anything about vaccines, and now they've prevented having to go in for their own knee surgeries and their own back surgeries just
Mm.
because they saw how their dog reacted with
Yeah,
the acupuncture, you know. So it's
yeah,
little baby steps for all of us. And
yeah,
Like when I
yeah.
went in for my knee surgery the first time, I went in for my pre-op interview with a nurse and I said, look, they wanted a list of all my medications. I said, that's easy. I take no medication. Then they wanted to know what, you know,
Yeah.
natural things I did. So I gave them a list of essential oils and my vitamins. And she's looking at me like, I don't know, what is this? What is that? So I explained it to her. I said, and then I do this thing called redox signaling molecules. If I cannot bring my essential oils, my detox, which I do Vitrotox for when I do that because it's simple. If I can't bring that and my molecules, I'm not coming. I'm not having surgery. Plain and simple. I need a new knee. I really need a new knee, but I'm not going to do it if I can't bring the things. And they said, okay, fine. And then when as soon as I get back to my room after surgery, and of course I got the IV hooked up, and the nurse comes in with 4 syringes and she goes over to the pole. I said, well, wait a minute. What is that? Well, one was a softener. I said, no, take it away. One was a pain med, take it away. All 4 of them, I said, no, 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 no. She looked at me and she looked around because the door was open to the hallway. She looked to make sure there was no one around and she said, good for you. The pharmacist came in, female pharmacist came in the next day just before I was being discharged because they were giving me some tramadol for pain. So she came with my prescription. And I said, I really don't do drugs. I don't do pharmaceuticals. Yeah, I don't like Western medicine. You know, if I could get a new knee through, you know, acupuncture, I would. And unfortunately, when you're bone on bone after 65 years, you don't, you know, I'm not going to live long.
It's not going to happen.
Right. But I said, I don't do this. And this young pharmacist says to me, she said, well, I don't vaccinate my children and I don't use drugs at home either. All right, there you go. I mean, it's amazing, but yet they're pumping it to everybody else. And I go, okay, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I don't know. I just think that, you know, it's important to. I think one of the reasons why I do my podcast as well, and this is what Dr. Josie will explain, is like, I'm terrible with technology, so it's not a professional podcast where it's not polished. It's extremely raw. It's minimally edited unless I do a major boo-boo, like I forgot to press record, which I'm glad I did press record at the beginning of this. You know,
we just have to get back on the talk.
yeah, we'll have to go back again. But you know, so for me, doing this project with Dr. Josie, this particular project that we're doing with you, it really is to be as raw and uncensored, you know, and it doesn't mean that, you know, people have to agree with everything you say, but it's important that they hear it, they think about it, and they make up their own, they come to their own educated, they do their own research, due diligence, and figure it out themselves, what to do.
Well, I tell people, listen, you can either agree with me or you can be wrong. The choice is yours. Some people don't take that too well. No, but you're right. Amrys, that's exactly it. You can only put the information out there. People say, well, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And I say, wait a minute, you're missing a piece. You can lead the horse to water. You can't force him to drink, but you can add salt to his feed so he wants to drink. And I like adding the salt to the feed so they want to drink. That's what I do.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, so this special project that I'm doing with her, really is a gift and a contribution back to society, for me, back to the community as well, and especially for pet parents out there who have no freaking clue what's going on or what's what this conversation is today. It's a good start for them to really like think like, oh my God, what's all this about? And let them find out more, give them that opening, like, hey, this is information that maybe you don't hear on mainstream, both in the vet world and in the human medical world, but it's something that, we need to actually put it out there. So you might not agree with everything. It's okay, but listen, and then make up your mind. Go and do some research. Go figure it out and see, like, how real is it? How true is it? Does it resonate with you? Whatever. But for me, it's to be able to put it out there in the universe. And those who are meant to listen to it, they will listen to it.
Exactly. No, I think that's the perfect. And I would love to do, well, as you can tell, I can talk forever. And I'm passionate about what I do. People, so I've had people recently ask me, well, exactly what is it that you do? And I just, but I've come up with an answer. It's like, I solve problems. That's it. Bring me the problem.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And I help people solve problems, whether it's their animals or usually, and it's interesting because like with this young woman with the pit bull, first of all, we saved the dog from, they were going to charge $6,000 for the surgery that they didn't.
I was going to say that surgery is like $6,000 to $7,000 a knee. Yeah, it's not a joke.
But in talking with her about dogs and getting them all switched to, better food and the whole bit, she told me she has a very rare, Susak syndrome, and I was not familiar with it. Apparently there are fewer than 700 people in the world who've been diagnosed with this. They don't really know what it is. Of course, it's autoimmune. So every 3 months she goes for a $9,000 chemo infusion, which she just did 2 days ago. So she said to me, but I connected her with one of my very dear friends from Chicago area. He's one of they're chiropractors, so he's not a real doctor. But he's amazing. And I connected her with Darren, and he spent 45 minutes doing a phone consult with her the other day, just because I asked him to connect with her and help her. And he's got her started on some really, really good things. And again, these molecules, which I was gonna say, I
have to learn more about this molecule thing. You're talking about.
Redox signaling molecules.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to send me some. Yeah.
I'll send you some little videos that show you. But 30-second version is redox signaling molecules are what are made by the mitochondria of every cell and every living being. And without them, if you had stopped making, if your body had stopped making those molecules when we started this conversation,
we'd be dead, right?
3 hours ago, you'd be dead. Okay.
Yeah,
I would be very sad that you would be dead. Yeah. But we, like everything else good in the body, as we age or we're exposed.
Well, the mitochondria, there's a lot of people that think that's what the mitochondria not functioning well is behind cancer, metabolic.
Well,
cancer.
Yes. And guess what? And that's why these molecules, people with cancer, people with seizures, people with Parkinson's, people with ALS are suddenly brain injuries, and they're suddenly all getting healthy. And because they're taking the molecules, I got her, I guess I just got her, I got an account set up for her last night so she can get them at wholesale. And she can't wait to get them. And she said,
Have you used them with animals?
oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Dogs, cats, horses, goats,
Yeah.
pigs, fish, birds, you name it. I will send you my
Yeah,
favorite.
send me the info.
My favorite video with animals is with a horse, a young Frisian, who the vet gave her, after examination, emergency exam, gave her a less than 5% chance of even surviving because she had hit her head and went down. It was all brain injury, the whole bit. You'll see the video, but the bottom line is, after like 2 or 3 days, he said, she's going to have 100% recovery. She's going to be fine. I mean, it's amazing. I've used the dog with the 18-year-old with the stroke. That's all I did and we just misted his eyes and misted it into his mouth to begin with.
Wow.
And
Very
he's had
cool.
not only a total recovery, he's better than he was before. So yeah, I'll send you some information. You'll love it.
See, that's the other thing it's a love-hate relationship I have with the US, is that there's so many great like products, and you know,
and you can't get them.
I can't get them. I can't get them over here. It's very, besides the fact that it's expensive and the exchange rate will kill me most of the time.
And the shipping is insane.
Yeah, the shipping is crazy.
So you're in Singapore. I'll have to check because this company, this is the only company in the world. This is the only product that is certified redox signaling molecules. The only one. And
because that's the thing. There's all this stuff out there, and I'm like, unless I know somebody who really knows and has used it.
This is the only one, and the stability was finally figured out by a medical atomic physicist, Dr. Samerson. He's a sweetheart. God, he's just a great guy.
Interesting.
I'll send you some of the scientific stuff as well as some of the really fun stories. But they are in 34 countries. They are distributing this.
Okay.
Yeah, they're global. I just looked them up. They're global, right?
Oh,
you
yes,
might be able to get them.
34 countries. So I'm going to check and see if I can get it. If you can get it in Singapore, if you can, Amrys, I will send you some information too, so you can look at it and see it. Maybe
that's
something.
Awesome. I wonder if it's helping people that are vaccinated.
I will tell you.
But that's such a God.
Okay, so what these things really do is, first of all, they eliminate inflammation. They are also pain relieving, but they open up the 5 major signaling pathways for your body, because if your cells aren't signaling and balanced properly, no matter how much good stuff you put in, your body doesn't know what to do, and it doesn't get there. So this will actually help to identify a damaged cell. If the cell isn't too damaged, it will support the natural healing ability and speed that up. If it's too damaged, like a cancer cell, for instance, it will speed up apoptosis so that a healthy cell can be generated in its place, so that now you're replicating healthy cell instead of mutated cell. I mean, how freaking cool is that?
Yeah.
And it's
so forget about the vaccine. Just think about the virus, like SARS, COVID, instead, like a more natural way to deal with it.
Yeah. This is helping so many people.
We don't need them. There's so many ways to deal with it. Doing the vaccine is just ridiculous anyway. And it's not even about.
Is it a virus?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it is snake venom. Maybe, who knows what it is? But no matter what.
Well, and we know it's engineered. I mean, I know it's different genes spliced together. That's for sure.
Here's the point.
That's for sure.
You cannot help the body be healthier, whether it's a vaccine or COVID or anything else, by putting more toxins into it. Who decided that you can create health by toxifying a body? I mean, to me, that is just the most bizarre, backwards bullshit I have ever heard. It never made sense to me. So, oh well.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement on this.
Especially when we have like you said, nature knows how to do it, but like all these plants, my theory is that we've literally co-evolved with all of these plants and all of these other beings that are there to give us gifts to help our bodies heal and maintain that health. I mean, you look at the receptors in our body and the compounds in plants Cannabis is one of them. They finally found all these receptors all over our body for cannabis molecules. It's like, hello, it's just insane.
I have said forever, whatever your belief is, whether you believe in God or, evolution or anything in between, do you really think that whoever or whatever put us here without everything we need to survive?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It's crazy.
Right around us. But they've got to go splice shit together in a lab and really fuck it up. I mean, I've been having Atlantean flashbacks about this whole issue, to be honest. I mean, I've talked to other people about it too, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Atlantis," because they have made some major violations against life.
Yes,
as a whole.
There is no question, and we have
major violations.
As souls, we have all had so many different experiences. We've been the good guy, we've been the bad guy, we've made good decisions, we've made bad decisions, whatever. But so obviously for, this little triad right here, we are all at a lifetime where we are all about helping other people to make better decisions and to do some healing. And to me, that's
the light a little bit.
As Heidi said, bring in the light. God love him.
Shine the light. And I've been told by so many people, it's like, God, you go into really dark places and shine the light. And I'm like, yeah, I'll go there. I'll go in the hell realms.
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, the first time that my spiritual teacher, that we were sitting there at her dining room table, I just finished a session, and I knew one of my friends was coming in, the one who had followed me when I met the unicorn. And I said to Sheila, my teacher, I said, I know Karen's coming soon. I said, Sheila, I get a feeling there's something going on with Karen's soul. Now you can't tell, the most amazing spiritual person on the whole freaking planet. I'm sitting there going, I think there's something wrong with Karen's soul. Well, she said, okay, let's take a look. She said, oh my God. She said, you're right. She said, okay. She's going to come here any minute now, and we're going to just let her sit and observe. But this is what we're going to do. And I'm looking at her going, we're going to what? We're going to hell? We're going to go to hell and retrieve a soul? Huh? Excuse me. Well, we went to hell. Oh my God. Not something you want to do very often, but
no,
it was just amazing. And interestingly enough, we were able to help Karen. And she didn't know what was going on. She just knew that there was something really wrong with her. She wasn't sure what it was, and she couldn't figure it out.
And when those pieces are missing, people can be so confused and scattered. Right. Yeah.
And she was a woman who did a lot of spiritual work, but she had pieces missing. Look, her soul was in hell. Well, when we retrieved it, you could see the transformation on her face. I mean, it was amazing. She said, oh my God. She said, I feel whole again. I mean, seriously, you can't make this shit up. It just happens. It's what happens. You go with it. You accept it. You either do or you don't. And those who do, I think, go on. They become a little more advanced in their spiritual understanding, and that gives them a better footing for everything they do in life. And those who don't are young souls, and they got to come back and do it again next time. So good luck to them.
Exactly. I've always been like, I'm trying to get through this one so I don't have to come back. I probably will come back just to help, but God knows.
I just know next time around for me, I'm looking forward to being able to be out there wherever out there is in my natural light
body.
Oh, look at them. Oh my God. Yeah, I remember doing that. You get it.
It's like sitting at the beach with the pool boy bringing you like drinks with little umbrellas in them while you watch the show. That's my version of it.
That's it. I want my little umbrella drink with cherry in it.
Wow. I'm so thankful and grateful that you took the time to listen to this podcast. It would mean the world to me if you could subscribe, download, rate, review, and share this with others whom you care about that may enjoy it as well. Thank you, and remember to be kind to yourself and others. Have a awesome day, everyone.